Hello guys, welcome to my channel Lucid Fanfic, and if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest videos. So be sure to stick around until the end. And let's get started. Izuku POV. Hi, I am Midoriya Izuku. Currently, I am 16 years old. I have green and black hair. I get the green from my mom and the black from my dad. I also have my mom's emerald green eyes and a unique diamond freckle pattern, which I get from my dad. My parents are the famous couple Midoriya Inko and Hisashi. My father, Hisashi, was the owner of a massive support gear company. Support gear are tools that heroes use. Anyway, he met my mother when their companies decided to work together. My mother, Inko, is the owner of a world-renowned fashion company and likewise met my father when their companies decided to work together on some hero costumes. They started dating shortly after that and eventually got married, leading to one of the biggest mergers the world has ever seen and the birth of their now co-owned company, Midoriya Technologies. Around 5 years later, I was born, and as such am the sole heir. My parents are both fourth-generation quirk users. My father has a relatively useless to his line of work fire-breathing quirk. My mother, on the other hand, was born with a weak, albeit useful telekinesis quirk, which she uses for her job and other tasks very often. Like when I was young, she would hold me and use her quirk to read me a story and rock me to sleep in her arms. When I was 4, we went to the doctor's office to see what my quirk was, and I was diagnosed quirkless. However, they did take note that I seemed to have hyperthymesia, also called a superior autobiographical memory. Basically, I can remember events of my life with surprising clarity. Anyway, from that day on, my parents decided to enhance the security on our estate to rival the security of Tartarus Max Prison and Island. From there, I was taught at home by some of the world's most renowned private tutors. I learned as much about the world as I could, and as a result began to take notes on every quirk I could find out about. Apart from that, I learned many languages: English, French, Latin, Mandarin, Korean, Japanese, Portuguese, Spanish, Arabic, and Russian, to name a few. After that, I personally requested that I wanted to learn to defend myself, so they requested several martial arts masters and weapons master. I learned martial arts such as Tai Chi, Karate, Kung Fu, several forms, Judo, Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Krav Maga, and Aikido, to name a few. From there, I learned strategy from the smartest mind on the planet, Principal Nizu. He is the principal of the world's greatest hero school, UA Academy. His quirk is called High Specs, and it gives him an IQ of around 240. His teaching method was basically school me at every strategy game he could find, and I was only finished with the game when I could consistently beat him in the game, which he considered to be around 10 times in a row. The final game was chess, before that was shogi, and it was an intense final match because he pulled out everything. Due to the nature of the game, we always had about a day between each round of chess, and the last round was stressful because if I failed on the last round, of course, the count reset. Thankfully, I managed to beat him after he got me down to my king, 3 pawns, a rook, and a knight left. Ultimately, I got his king trapped between my rook, my knight, and 2 pawns. His king was in a corner and in check by my rook. The only move he could make would put him to capture tile on my knight, due to my pawns being positioned just right to where, if he captured one, the other would capture him. He ultimately had to yield, due to his only other piece having been captured by my remaining pawn. As a result of my graduation from my teacher, Principal Nizu, my parents decided to plan a trip to Tibet as a graduation present. Although they seem to have another motive, I'll ask them on the way there. That brings us up to today, and I just finished packing now. If you excuse me, I need to get some sleep for tomorrow. See you then. Izuku POV, 12:45 p.m. I'm staring at the letter that Principal Nizu left with me yesterday when I managed to beat him in chess. The letter was a special recommendation to Class 1A at his college. It's so special because it is the only recommendation to be given out by him himself. Sweetie, the car is ready to take us to the airport, Mom called up the stairs to me. Yeah, Mom, I'll be down in a moment. Don't worry, I called back down the stairs. Okay, please hurry up, though. I'm sure that the pilot doesn't like waiting too much. Right, I said, grabbing my suitcase and bringing it downstairs into the car. From there, I passed it off to our chauffeur who put it in the trunk while I got in the car. I was the last one in, my parents just having a small conversation. Now seemed as good a time as any. So you going to tell me the other reason for this trip? I asked. Of course you picked up on that, my father said. Well, your mother and I heard tell of an old temple in the Tibetan mountains relatively close to the specific town we're going to, he answered. And you want to go to this temple because? I asked. Well, we heard that supposedly the missing temple has something to do with reports of superheroes that existed long before the first quirk was discovered, my mother said. We thought that you would like to learn more about this, and that maybe we could find out what gave these heroes their power, she finished. That does sound interesting, but I'm sure that these powers that you heard rumors of are greatly exaggerated, and beside, I thought the point was to be the first quirkless hero, I said. Well, if we did find something and decided to use it, we were hoping that you would use its soul for our peace of mind, father said. My son, we only want you to be safe, and while we support your decision, we will always be worried it's our job, as your parents, he finished. Okay, if we do find something, I will utilize it only to put you at a peace of mind, I said. I love you, Mom. Dad, thanks. I leaned forward and hugged them both, and with that we arrived at the airport. Here we take a 3 hours, 15 minutes flight from Tokyo to Shanghai, and from there we take a connecting flight from Shanghai to Lhasa, with a stopover in Xi'an and an overall flight of about 8 hours. Once in Lhasa, we stayed in a hotel for a bit to help us get over our massive jet lag. Once we were all caught up, we went to Boat Village, which houses the base camp for Mukalu the mountain we are climbing, and the origin of the story my parent heard. Once we got to the base camp, we began to set up for our expedition. We leave tomorrow, so my parents decided to tell me what they know about the expedition. So we gathered around a nice and warm campfire. Okay, so what we know is that for years going back, almost 200 years ago, the villagers of this town have told stories of a great inferno coming from near the top of the mountain, father said. And before that, they told tale of monks that would come down to the village for supplies, and every now and then they would chose one of the boys of the village of around 10 years and take them to train them for the mission of the temple. All that the monks would tell them is they were guardians of a great power meant to better the human race, nothing more, nothing less. So our goal is to see if anything survived this inferno that the villagers tell of? I asked. Yes, exactly as Zuka, mother said. After that, we went to our tents and snuggled in for the cold night. Once morning came around, we began our trek up the mountain to the general area. We think the temple was located, which is on a plateau that puts it just under the peak. By the estimates we came up with, it should take around 6-7 hours to get there, and from there, it is a matter of looking for the remains of the temple. According to the village, there have been many attempts to find the temple. None have been successful. The most found was a tile that is believed to be from the roof of the temple. After hours of climbing, we made to the plateau. Me and Dad set up our temporary camp, and Mom began to run scans on the plateau. See, my parents on the way up were saying it is likely that what is left of the temple could be buried under the snow, and ice all it takes is locating one entrance, and we are golden. So while Mom continued to scan, Dad overlooked the data. Well, I began preparing our lunch. It was simple, a couple of heated sandwiches. Once they were heated, I discarded the biodegradable heaters. That was a mistake caused when I did that. Well, turns out I was over the entrance and as such fell down and into the temple. Fortunately, we had brought close-range communicators and a long-range distress signal. Hey, Dad, you know how you're searching for entrance through the data Mom is collecting? Well, I found an entrance thanks to those biodegradable heaters we brought, I called on the comm. Really, where is the entrance you found? Mom replied. Right by my tent, careful. I can't see how big the hole I made is or how unstable the snow is, so make sure you have a solid anchor on the rope, I reported. While I waited, I was looking around and came across something rectangular and wrapped in cloth. I was using what little light I had and also found 2 shiny objects. All of this ended up in my bag. Once they got down here and we had a secure exit, we began to set up our real base camp here. We brought everything down in here where it was much warmer and reset up camp here under the snow cap. So the plan was simple. Mom and I were to scout out the ruins here with our flashlights, and Dad was tasked with creating a means to go back up easier than climbing. Mother and I explored a great distance into the ruins and eventually split up, me heading one way or the other. I ended up in a room with this interesting reflecting pool. It was deep and had 2 pillars, although it appeared that age had caused one of them to break and sunk to the bottom of the pool. I found a door at the other end of the room. It was a pain to open, and when I finally got through, I found out why the roof was damaged, and the debris ended up blocking the door. In this new room, I was looking around and stumbled on a very ash-laden carpet. When I walked on it, I heard a faint creak. The floor in this room was all stone, so this was suspicious, and I threw the carpet off to find a trapdoor. Opening the trapdoor led to a library of books, perhaps the scriptures of these monks. I found several books. Some of them were burned beyond the ability to read, and some were readable, but the markings were unlike any language I had seen before, till I came across a book with a sheet stuck in it that seemed to translate the weird symbols. "Hey, Izuku. Honey, we might want to get heading back now." I picked up some radio chatter, saying it looks like a blizzard is blowing in. "It might knock in the snow above, and we don't want to be here if it does," Dad called out over the comms. On my way, I replied. "Say," Mom replied. I packed the other book in and made it back to the camp where Dad had already packed up the camp. Mom was just behind me. Once we were all together, we started heading back down. We spent about an hour in the ruins. Once we got out into open, it was noticeably colder. We began our trek down the mountain. About halfway down, the blizzard hit, and all we could do was continue forward. Then we heard a roar. It was hard to tell for sure. It could have been the wind, but when I looked back, I saw something that chilled me to my bones. My father was frozen over. I heard my mom yell out and began defending my escape, using her core to its fullest. I ran down the mountain till I was back at the base camp and kept running till I reached the police station. My parents and I were attacked on our way down the mountain. They need help. My mom was covering my escape. My dad looked like he was frozen. I said, "Show me what the officer at the desk said." "Right, well, he would have fumu zai xiaoshan de lashang zao dao shiji. Tamin shuyao bangju. Well, mama zheng zai yinhu would have tao pao. Well, baba can chilai xiang bei dong jiangla," I restated. The officer said. With that, several officers rushed out, and several brought me to a fire in the corner, comforting me. After a while, I must have fallen asleep from the stress of the situation, and when I came to, it was around 12 the next day. Upon fully waking up, I asked and was taken to confirm my father's body, which it was indeed his body. They had informed me that my mother was in critical condition. I asked them to take me to her. When we got to the hospital, I was rushed to see my mother, and I got there and saw a devastating sight. My mother was covered in bandages that were soaked in blood. I looked at her chart, and it said she was impaled with several icicles and would most likely not survive, so I stayed with her till the end, which came in the early morning of the next day. The day after that, they were both cremated and were sent along with me back to Japan, and I held a press conference announcing their death and my appointment as CEO of Midoriya Technologies. Izuku's POV. It has been 2 years since the deaths of my parents. In these 2 years, I have been acting CEO of Midoriya Technologies, my parents' multi-billion-dollar fashion and support gear company, and I have been doing most of my work from home. My only company was the staff of the estate, and more often than not, my online friends Melissa Shield from Ireland and Marinette de Painchung from Paris, France. Melissa is my age and has blonde hair and brilliant blue eyes. She lives on island with her father, who is the renowned inventor David Shield, and she attends I Academy to be like him in the future. She has been my friend for a long time, ever since she turned 4, and was also announced quirkless. She has visited a few times. Marinette is a year younger than Melissa and me, and she has bluish-black hair and brilliant blue eyes. She lives in Paris, France with her parents who own a bakery. She is your run-of-the-mill teenager and dreams of becoming a fashion designer. Incidentally, that is how we met. We met during a live broadcast of a fashion blog. After a few comments exchanged between us, we started a private message conversation and have since then talked a few times over voice call. She has helped out loads as well and has acted as my secretary on 2 occasions of Fashion Week. Basically, she carried around a tablet, so I could video call my fashion. Apart from that, she helped with any incidents with the outfits. I have half a mind to hire her now for Midoriya Technologies' fashion division. She is also quirkless, which is why I think she is so into fashion though. In all fairness, France is the quirkless capital of the world, and Paris is the main place they are located. There nearly all of the population is quirkless in Paris. I worked myself very hard trying to outrun the pain of their death. They would check up from time to time. It was nice they would let me vent and remind me to take breaks. Today I was working hard on a new design I had thought up and was running around looking for the materials and parts when I tripped on a bag in one of the closets. I decided to pull it out to get a better look at it. It was the bag, the one from that day. I eventually decided to go through it. Maybe it would give me some more closure. I pulled out the 2 book-looking things, one still wrapped up, then the two accessories, placing them on the table. Finally, I decided to inspect the brooch like one. Just the glowing effect. The ribbon brooch began to glow a purplish color. It continued to glow till it blinded me. Then I hear this in a high-pitched voice. "Hello, master?" said. Immediately I looked back and saw a purple, big-headed creature staring at me with a swirl on its head and these wing-like appendages. "What are you? Who are you?" "You can float and seem to resemble a moth or butterfly." I had looked down to see the brooch had changed. "And what happened to the brooch?" Mutter, mutter, mutter. "I am Nuru. I am a Kwami. And the brooch appears differently because it is in disguise mode," the creature, now named Nuru, said. To make a long story short, Kwami are cosmic god-like entities that come into existence when a new emotion or concept is brought into existence. I specifically am the moth/butterfly Kwami, and I represent transmission. "Now, please may I know your name, master?" he continued. "Okay, that is a lot to process, but you could just call me Izuku," I replied. "My full name is Midoriya Izuku." "Now, why were you in the brooch? Is there another one of you in the pin?" I inquired. "Oh heavens, you are also in possession of the Peacock Miraculous. This is most interesting. It is quite rare for a holder to receive two," he said, surprised. He then went and investigated the other Miraculous, which led to me picking it up for him to get a better view. Then it glowed a vibrant blue, and then, "Woo," said this new peacock-like Kwami. "Fu, where are you?" "Oh, this looks nothing like the temple." "Or are you my new master?" "Hello, I'm Desu, a pleasure to meet you." "Hi, Desu. You could just call me Izuku." "Now, Nuru, please explain these Miraculous," I replied. "Oh, right away, Izuku. The Miraculous are magical jewels that allow a Kwami to be visible to you humans. They also allow us to bestow humans with a more precise form of our power, which is related to what we embody. I can allow you to give the people of your choice powers that you decide to aid you in battle." And Desu, he said before being interrupted. "And I can allow you to create beings related to your emotions, or the emotions of others," Desu said, interrupting Nuru. "Okay, last, possibly very important question for now. Why is Desu's Miraculous doing that?" I asked. "Oh, no, this is not good. You must not use this Miraculous. It is damaged," Nuru said. "Oh, we'll need a guardian to fix this," he continued, clearly upset. "Oh, I'm sorry, Nuru, but the temple was very damaged. I don't think we can find a guardian there," I said. "On top of that, it has been abandoned of nearly 2 centuries. However, I did find 2 books in the collapsed temple. One of them had a sort of decoder. I might be able to figure out how to fix it that way," I said, offering them some hope. "So I'll have to work on that. But can a peacock still be used?" "Well, technically yes, but it would be very dangerous. A damaged Miraculous will damage its user," Nuru responded. "It also damages the Kwami a bit till it's fixed, but she should be mostly fine, so we can still talk to her." "Okay, that's good." I said we will store the peacock in the vault till we are able to repair it, but we will keep Desu out for company. I stated, grabbing both Miraculous and putting on the butterfly. "As for the butterfly, I shall wear it to keep it safe. Sound like a good plan, you two?" "Right, this will work out well, I'm sure," said the very excited Desu. "As long as you're okay with it." "Then so am I," Izuku, Nuru replied somberly. "I promise to do everything I can to repair this damaged Miraculous," I said while storing in the vault. "So do you two need to eat or anything?" "Not really, we only eat to help recharge our power after transforming someone," Nuru replied. "Then do you want anything to eat?" I asked. "No thanks," Nuru said. "Same," Desu replied. "Well, I'm hungry, so I'm making me some lunch," I said, walking into the kitchen to make katsudon. Izuku's POV. After the delicious lunch, I grabbed both the books and brought them to my study. Nuru explained during lunch that Kwami are forbidden to know what the books say, so I took them to my room and showed them how to use the TV and my laptop and told them to learn about the modern world through those means. After that was settled, I began my research. I pulled out the decipher from one of the books. It was damaged slightly, but I could make it out some. The pages seemed to be encrypted twice because translating the page gave us bizarrely text in French. What this means is yet to be determined. Anyway, the first page I translated was one seeming to pertain to the butterfly Miraculous. Ignore Nuru. The translation starts with Choicer il faut bien sélectionner ses élites l'avenir du monde indépendant. Good thing I learned several languages. This translates roughly 2. Choosing you must select your elites, the future of the world depends on it. This could be linked to the butterfly miraculous or the choosing of those who were allowed to use a miraculous. This could also be how quirks originated, hard to tell. The next page had something that seems to pertain to the repair of the miraculous. The initial translation reads, Metal précieux liquide, du soleil la poussière du ciel, maintenant precious reparera el animal bless, el animal fera, un petit sacrifice. This seemed to be a riddle translated to my native language. It means, liquid precious metal of the sun, dust from the sky now. Precious shall fix the injured animal, the animal shall make a small sacrifice. I wrote this down for later and went to my room to take a break. Master, did you find anything? Nuru asked upon seeing me. Maybe it is not much, but I do have something to go on, I replied. Well, that is good. Oh, also you have some messages on your apparatus here, he replied. Okay, thank you, I'll look at them immediately, I said, grabbing the laptop and checking the messages. I had one each from Marinette and Melissa, and one surprisingly from Nizu. I checked my friends first. Marinette wrote to tell me that she managed to graduate a year early, and her parents were fine with her coming to work for me, so long as I take care of everything and protect her from harm. Melissa wrote to tell me that her father said she could come over for a little while now that it is her summer break. The last from Nizu was a request. Dear Midoriya Izuku, I am writing to remind you of the offer I left you with. However, as you're the current CEO of your parent company, perhaps that offer is no longer the most viable for your future. So instead, I would like to ask your input on the entrance exam set to take place in around 4 months' time. Furthermore, I also request that you yourself work on the hero outfits and the support gear for those accepted this year to the hero course. Best wishes, Principal Nizu. Sure, I can do that, Nizu, I replied. Then I replied to Marinette and Melissa, and we all started a video call with each and talked for a few hours. POV, a few hours ago. Master Nuru, we found him. He says he is in Japan, a green creature that resembled a turtle said. What? Nuru, but I was certain that those two miraculous were destroyed, an old man wearing a Hawaiian-style shirt. What a minute. Waze, how exactly did you find him? Well, his cycle came up earlier, and we successfully made contact with him. Waze replied. He says a boy has claimed ownership of the butterfly and peacock miraculous. He also found the grimoire and another book from the temple. He continued with his master looking slightly distressed. Apparently, the boy has only been deciphering the books and been comforted by Nuru and Dusu, as when he found them his parents died on the mountain to some monster or villain he finished. We need to go to Japan, then let's pack up and tell the others we're going to go see the master said. Yes, Master Fu Waze said before disappearing into this phonograph thing. Izuku's hero costume is interesting. It is very reminiscent to the image he saw in the grimoire of a previous holder of the butterfly, just with his own flair. His hair changes color to a pale lilac. Instead of a full cowl, he has a mask covering his freckles in the shape of the glowing symbol that appears in front of an akumatized person. His eyes change to turquoise number 2. As for his cloths, he wears a royal purple suit with a celeste blue undershirt like the one that Hawkmoth has. His miraculous is in the same place as Hawkmoth's. His shoes are similar to black Oxfords without the laces. He also has a trench coat that is royal purple on the outside, and the lining is celeste blue, which appears to have a faint glow. Izuku's POV. Today I was out getting supplies for the arrival of some special guests later this week. It was a tranquil day after a villain attack earlier that also was the premiere of a new hero, MT Lady. I was in my car going to stores to pick up more food, which I just had it sent to the estate. After that, I went to a music shop and browsed for a while. Then to a side street for a late lunch. It was around now that I heard the explosion. What was that? I said to myself, rushing into an ally. Nuru, they might need assistance. How do I transform? Oh, I've been waiting for this. It is quite simple, Izuku. Just say Nuru wings rise, he replied. All right then, Nuru wings rise. I called transforming. Once I transformed, I began to feel the emotions around me and followed the strong feeling of distress I sensed not too far away. I started hopping up to the rooftops and rushed my way over. All Might's POV. A few hours ago, I was out shopping, picking up some food for the week. As I was coming out of the store, I saw a villain that appeared to be made of sludge running past with large amounts of money falling from its body. Where are the heroes? Some people in front of me were wondering. As the said that I began powering up to my buff form. There is no need to fear, I began. Why? Because I am here. I finished rushing after the villain. I have 3 hours to catch him. Unfortunately, he went down into the sewers, and this city's sewers are a maze, I swear. Ultimately, when I found him, I had around 5, maybe 6 minutes left. He found a hostage. A young purple-haired boy was caught in his grasp and losing oxygen fast. I burst the sewer cover off and said, "Have no fear now that I am here." I reared back my fist, Texas smash, blowing apart the villain and saving the kid. The kid was unconscious, so I softly slapped him repeatedly to wake him up. Itchy-why, 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 he began to stir. "Oh, good, I was worried. I might have had rush you to the ER, I said, relieved. Oh my God, I was saved by the #1 hero. "Can I get your autograph?" he said, offering me his notebook, which I already signed. "You already signed it. Well, know that you are safe. I got to. Go, kid," I called back to him as I took off into the sky. Only I felt heavier than normal. I looked back and saw the kid clinging to my pant leg. I decided to land on a skyscraper. Okay, usually I am all for the fans, but I really need to go. "But I have an important question for you," the kid said, looking away, rambling about his life a bit as I was transforming. I only caught a few things like bullied, being called a villain, and some other things. Then he looked and noticed I changed. "What the hell? Calm down. I'm All Might. This is just my civilian identity," I explained, calming him down. "Okay, well, my question is, do you think someone with a villainous quirk can be a hero?" he asked. "I am sorry, kid, but I don't know how best to answer your question," I said, which caused him to have a forlorn look. "But I can say this, if you want to be a hero, there has to be a way. It might take you years to figure it out, but every hero is unique mostly," I said, which seemed to raise his spirits. "Now, if you excuse me, I need to turn in this villain." I pat my pocket only to not feel the bottle containing the villain. Then we both heard a boom. Izuku's POV. I arrived on a rooftop, and when I looked down, I saw a giant blob of green sludge which appeared to have a hostage. Not only that, but said hostage appears to be fighting back with their quirk, which is causing the explosions as well as causing fire on several buildings. I looked over to see a crowd of people watching and several heroes doing nothing. Okay, I need to use my power. Let's see. I sense great emotion from Death Arms. He'll do. I popped the bubble open on my cane and grabbed the butterfly, channeling my power into it. Began to glow a brilliant blue. "Fly away, my little Tenchi," I said. With that, it flew off to Death Arms and possesses his bracers. Death Arms, I am here to help you defeat this foe. With my help, you will have the ability to rush in and pull the hostage free. I even have a plan for you to use. I started to explain my plan to him. "Once you are successful, I will be removing my blessing. Do we have a deal?" I asked. "I accept," he replied, and underwent a slight transformation. His muscles grew visibly only slightly, and the colors on his costume, mostly his shirt, switched to red. "Backdraft, Kimui Woods, I have a plan for us to use," he told them. "What is it, Death Arms?" They both asked in double take, seeing him look different from a moment ago. "Backdraft, you will make an opening for Kimui Woods to get through." Death Arms started to explain the plan. I told him. "Kimui Woods, you will go in and attack the villain's eyes. Those are the only seemingly vital points on his body. While you do that, I will rush in and pull out the hostage. Once he is safe, I will blow the villain away." He finished. "It could work." Kimui Woods started. "Are you feeling okay?" "Never better," Death Arms replied. "Now let's do this." With that, they began executing the plan. Backdraft began to put the fires out, and Kimui Woods rushed off and climbed, using his quirk to swing above the villain. "Lacquered chain prison," he called out, and used it to wrap around the villain's eyes. From their Death Arms rushed in and reached into the sludge villain, grabbing onto the boy's arm and pulling him out, rushing to the crowd in Backdraft. He dropped the boy off and then rushed back. Heavy machine impact. Death Arms called out the name of his signature move and blasted the villain apart, knocking him out. "That's the deal taken care of," he said. "That it is," I said, talking to him in his head. "Come to me, my little Tenchi." It returned to me, and Death Arms powered down, returning to normal. From there, I returned to my car, and I had to transform. From there, I left back to my house. As I ate dinner, I watched the news that were talking about the sludge villain incident earlier, and thankfully, there was no mention of me. After that, I went to bed and slept peacefully and soundly for tomorrow. Izuku's POV, 6 a.m. I woke up and immediately got dressed in my usual suit and grabbed my overnight bag, as I will have to stay the night in Paris, France. From there, I went downstairs and made my way to the airport, planning to eat on the flight. Once at the airport, I went through the usual checks into my relatively new private plane. We took off shortly after that, and I requested my breakfast, which was omelet rice, which was delicious. From there, I sent a message to Marinette to let her know I was on my way. Marinette POV, 6 a.m. local time. I just woke up and checked my messages. I had one from Izuku. Hey Marinette, I am on my way. See you around 3 p.m. Oh no, I forgot to tell my parents I was offered a job at his company. I got dressed and went downstairs to eat breakfast. Good morning, sweetie. I'm so glad you're awake, cause after breakfast we have a big order of macaroons, and you would be a big help making them. Dad said. Okay, Dad, I can help, but I really need to talk to you and Mom about something really important, I said, beginning to eat my breakfast, a muffin and orange juice. Okay, sweetie, we are listening. Mom suddenly commented. Oh, morning, Mom, I started. Well, you see, I said, pressing my 2 index fingers together. You know my online friend Midoriya Izuku, and how I have helped on the last 2 fashion weeks here by acting as his assistants for them. I continued. Yes, of course, he seems so nice, my dad said. Well, I have sent him some of my designs, and I began, and he has offered a job at his company. I blurted out the last part. Oh, really? What company does he own? My mom asked. He owns Midoriya Technologies, the fashion/hero costume and support gear company. He is the CEO, I said, excited. Well, that is good. You found a job at a fashion company, Mom said. Well, the issue is, well, it is located in Japan, I said. What do you mean? My dad began to say. I will be moving to Japan, I finished for him. So that's why you've been taking Japanese, Mom said. Okay, what day are you leaving? Dad asked. Well, about that, he is coming today to meet with you guys, and will we leave tomorrow? I said, looking away. What? My dad responded. Tom, sweetie, calm down. It's okay. We knew she was going to leave the nest one day, Mom said. But Sabine, she is leaving to one of the countries with the highest quirk rate. Dad yelled. Yes, Japan has one of the highest quirk rates in the world, but it also has the lowest crime rate of any of the top quirk rate countries, was Mom's response. If it helps, Izuku offered to let me stay with him at his estate, I interrupted. And why would that calm me down? My dad asked. Well, Izuku is also quirkless, so shortly after his diagnoses, they heavily fortified the estate to the point that the security rivals Island and Tartarus Max prison. I elaborated and taken the final bite of my muffin. Oh, well, then I suppose that is fine, then he said, clearly relieved. With that, we all had finished breakfast and made our way downstairs to work on the large order of macaroons. We worked hard, as these were due by the end of the weekend for the big event. At around 3 p.m., I received a message saying Izuku just touched down and was planning on doing some sightseeing later, and asked if I would join him. Mom, Dad, Izuku just texted saying his plane just landed. I told him finishing the last of the macaroons we had to make. Really, when will he be here? Mom asked. I looked at my phone, checking what time he would come and meet them. He says he will be here in about an hour. He has to check into his hotel room, and then he will be on his way, I told her. Well, you should get cleaned up for your boyfriend, sweetie, she replied. I blushed. Mom, it isn't like that. We were just friends that have similar interests, I told her, running upstairs to clean up. Izuku's POV. I just landed at Paris airport and got into my vehicle, heading to the hotel, which I had already booked a small room in, the La Grande Hotel. On the way, I texted Marinette to tell her that I was in Paris and would be over in around an hour or so, as well as wanting to see some sights later tonight. Shortly after I arrived at the hotel and walked in, hello, I have a reservation for a small room. Could you check me in? I asked the blonde teenage girl at the reception desk in French. Right, I forgot. Daddy wanted me to do some work this summer. She commented herself. Right, what's her name? Hot stuff? She said, obviously flirting. I am Midoriya Izuku, and I am in town for the remainder of the day and part tomorrow, I told her. OMG, you're Izuku Midoriya, the renowned fashion designer? She screeched out. Yeah, please just check me in. I have a friend I need to see after this, I said, looking at my watch, checking the time. OMG, I am such a fan of your fashion line. I am wearing one of your shirts, right? No, she commented, well, beginning the check-in. Actually, that is my mother's design, I said. See, all of my work has a different signature incorporated into the design, I explained while taking out my tablet to show her my signature. Oh, I suppose you're right. So what's with you and butterflies? She asked. It is mostly related to what they represent, I began to explain. See, butterflies represent many things, such as spiritual rebirth, transformation, change, hope, and life. It is probably just my hope for my parents' safety, wherever they may be, whether the afterlife or their next life I've finished. Wow, I didn't know that they could mean all of that. She said, yeah, the friend I am here to see is the one who told me that to cheer me up, I commented. Well, here is your key. Your room is 206, she said. That basically means second floor room 6, she explained. Thanks, see you later, I began. Chloe, she said, Chloe Bourgeois. See you later, Chloe, I said, and went to my room. I set down my minimal luggage and went back to the car and headed to Marinette's parents' bakery. It is currently 3:47 p.m. I just now got to the bakery. It is called Tom and Sabine Boulangerie Patisserie. I parked on the side road and walked into the bakery and looked around at all of the baguettes, croissants, and all the other various other breads and sweets that they make and sell. Hello, how may I help you? A short Chinese woman with bluish-black hair asked me. Yes, I am Midoriya Izuku. I am here to meet Marinette and her parents, I said. Oh, well, I can help you there easily. I am Sabine, Marinette's mother, she said, offering me her hand, which I took and gave a gentle shake in greeting. Pleasure meeting you, I said. Your daughter helped me in more ways than I could ever mention in a single conversation. Well, we are just happy she can pursue her dream working with you, she said in reply. Tom, honey, he is here and wants to meet us. I see a very large man with the muscles that he has gained from the many years of this job. So you're the friend that offered my dear daughter a job, right? He said, offering me his hand. Yes, I am Midoriya Izuku, I said, taking his hand. He tightened his grip on my hand, clearly testing me. Tom, if you keep that up, I will be forced to retaliate. And trust me, you do not want to do that, I warned him. Oh, but do you look like you have never worked a day in your life, boy, he said. How am I supposed to trust my daughter to a weak boy like you? Tom, I assure you I was trained since I was 4 in the hopes that I would become Japan's first quirkless hero, I calmly explained. Oh, and what does that mean? He questioned me. It means, Tom, that along with the best tutors money could buy. I started, then slowly increased my grip on his hand, causing him to begin to buckle. I was also trained in nearly every martial arts my parents could find, and most importantly, I was trained in strategy by the world's smartest mind so effectively that despite me being quirkless, I rated as one of, if not the smartest mind this world has seen. I explained, still increasing the pressure on his hand till he buckled to the floor. So if I do say so myself, I can easily protect your daughter. I said to Tom, who was now on the ground. Izuka, that was a bit much, don't you think? Sabine asked me. Sometimes this is what is needed to get I am not to be messed with even though I am quirkless, I explained to her. Yes, well, you are aware we are quirkless, right? She asked. Oh, right, terribly sorry for that, Tom, I said. It's what happens when you are quirkless and deal with narcissistic quirk users. It is all right, Izuku, and I understand, he said as I helped him up. Well, with that, we are closing early today, so let's go upstairs and wait for Marinette with some beverages, Sabine suggested. Sound good, do you have green tea? I asked. Yeah, I think we do, she responded. With that, we went upstairs to wait for Marinette and got to know each other better. Tom challenged me to a match in Ultimate Mecha Strike 3. We went for 3 rounds, and I won all of them after learning the controls just before playing. How are you this good? He asked. This is your first time playing. Trained to be a master strategist. Did you just forget that, sweetie? Sabine answered for me. After that, Marinette came downstairs in a simple red dress that seemed to emulate a kimono, if only just. Marinette's POV. I came down the stairs in my newest design. I was inspired by some of the culture that we learned about in my Japanese class. It was a relatively simple red dress inspired by the Japanese kimono. Like this, only a red color and complementing color scheme. I looked at Izuku and was looking at me speechless. So do you like it, Izuku? I asked him. He kept staring for a second. I think it looks lovely on you, Marinette, he finally said. Did you make this fabric yourself? He asked, coming over to examine it better. It's lovely. Actually, no, a friend who would help me practice my Japanese when you were busy helped me locate some materials for this. Her name is Kagami, I told him. Well, you entered it a great job, Marinette. You ready to go? Izuku asked. Yeah, we should get going. You wanted to see some of the sights, right? If we hurry, we can still see some of the Louvre. Then we can go from there to other sites, I said. We'll take my rental car. Then he said, and with that we were off. But first you have packed, right? Yeah, let's go. I told him. We got in his car and went to the Louvre only to find out it was closed today for security maintenance. From there, we went to the Arc de Triomphe, then the Eiffel Tower. After that, we went to dinner at the La Grande Hotel and finally ended up at the Pont des Arts. Well, thank you for showing me around, Marinette. It was a lovely night, Izuku said. Well, it's not over yet. I had this be the last stop for a reason, I told him. I'm sorry, Marinette, but I am not looking for a relationship right now, was his fast reply. No, the reason I brought you here was this, I said. My name is Andre. Andre Glace, the sweetheart matchmaker. Andre said, ringing a bell as he pulled up. With one scoop or two, I'll find love for you with magical ice cream flavor. Marinette, I am not looking for a relationship right now, Izuku reaffirmed. Izuku, calm down. I brought you here because he makes the best ice cream in the city, I told him. Okay, if you say, so he said, and we went and got in line. Ah, Marinette, good to see you again, and who is your friend here? Andre asked. This is Izuku, Andre, I said. He's a close friend and offered me a fashion job. He wanted to pick me up so I could show him around. I will find a perfect combination for you, Andre said to Izuku. Now for Marinette, raspberry and blueberry, a unique combination that's true, and for you, Izuku, ube and blue moon, an unpredictable one just for you. Thank you, Andre, we said and went to a nearby bench to enjoy our ice cream. While you were right, he makes excellent ice cream, and this is a very unique combination, Izuku told me. Yep, this day was quite enjoyable. Don't forget to show me around Japan a bit when we get the chance. I said, don't worry though, it might take a while. Before we can, my schedule is pretty booked for a bit once we get back, he said. Why? I asked. Well, I was asked to give my thoughts on the students wishing to enter the hero course at UA. He began. Then I have a contract to work on the hero costumes for all the accepted students. In all, it should take around 2 weeks, depending on certain things. Why, you weren't kidding, I said. After that, he drove me home and said we would be leaving around 3 p.m., so get some rest. Izuku's POV. I woke up at 6 a.m., took a quick shower, got dressed, and grabbed my suitcase to check out. I then drove over to the Dupain Chang's so we can enjoy a nice breakfast together. I parked and rang the doorbell for the flat. Izuku, glad you could join us for breakfast, Sabine said, answering the door and letting me in. It is my pleasure. Is Marinette awake? I would like to get the car packed as soon as possible. I asked. Yeah, I have my bags here. Mom and Dad are shipping my other things out tomorrow, Marinette said, coming down the stairs with 2 suitcases, which I took and put them into the trunk of the car. After that, we went up to the flat and had breakfast with Tom and Sabine. Tom had made muffins and Sabine made us some lovely omelets. If you two want, the next time you can take off, I can have you flown out to Japan to visit your daughter and see a country on the other side of the coin of Paris, I offered. That sounds lovely, Izuku, but I'm afraid that we very rarely close the shop, so it might be a while before we could take you up on that offer, Sabine answered for the couple. We finished up shortly after that, and Tom handed me a box of macarons, freshly made yesterday. I drove us to the airport and right up to the hangar that has been storing my private jet. I parked the car and popped the trunk to allow them to get the luggage, and we got onto the plane and sat down. Marinette, I have something I need to do when we land, I told her. You are welcome to come along and enjoy the show. Sure, what do you have to do? She asked me. Well, this year UA has requested my assistance with their entrance exams. I told her. It is partially a favor for one of my teachers, and because I will be personally designing and creating this year's hero course's hero costumes and initial support gear, and as such I wanted to get a look at the candidates that I will be working with. Makes sense, Marinette said. From there we just chatted and enjoyed the macarons that Tom sent with them. We made it to Japan around 1 p.m. and immediately got into a car after the luggage was packed into the trunk and drove off to Mizutofu and up a mountain to UA. That is one big school, Marinette said softly next to me. Indeed, originally I was going to attend this school and become the first quirkless hero, but you know about the trip, and when I came back I had to give up that dream, I told her. Then park the car. Follow me to the observation room, though I will have to join you later. Okay, lead the way, Izuku, she said to me. I lead her into the campus and over to the observation tower, walking her all the way up to the room up top. Hey, Nizu-sensei, this is a friend of mine that will be working with me from now on, I said, gesturing to Marinette. We just returned from Paris, and, well, I didn't have the time to take her my place, so Do we have an extra seat for her? Of course we do, Izuku. And your name will be what, miss? Nizu said, turning his seat around. Marinette, she said. Based on her face, I assumed she was trying to figure out what Nizu was. Marinette, he is a chimera, a mix between different animals. I told her. Oh, she said calmly. A pleasure to meet you. Marinette, Nizu said, offering his paw, which she shook warmly. Feel free to take the seat next to Aizawa. Izuku, when you return, yours will be right next to me. Right, I am off to the explanation of the physical portion of the exam, I said, and began to make my way to the exam hall. I walked into the hall through the stage entrance and heard President Mike speaking to the audience. Now to explain the entrance exam to all you hero prospects, the CEO of Midoriya Technologies, Izuku Midoriya, he said, and I walked calmly out into the podium. Thank you so much for the introduction, President Mike, I said. Now, then to all of you, first and foremost, know that my company will be taking your notes for your costume and making them a reality should you make it into the hero course here at UA. Now on to the explanation. You all will be participating in urban mock battles with robotic villains designed by the support course teacher Power Loader. There are 4 types of villains, the 1-pointer, 2-pointer, and 3-pointers, all of which are worth the point value that they are labeled for. Excuse me, a blue-haired kid with glasses said. Yes, contestant Ida Tenya, ask away, I said. You said there were 4 robots, sir, and yet you only mentioned 3 of them having points. If this is a mistake on UA's part, that would be a travesty. He said boisterously. Well, I hadn't gotten a chance to say it yet, but the last robot is worth 0 points. It is designed to function as an obstacle, you could say, I replied to his question. Now, then all of you get out there to your buses, corresponding to your site letter, and remember to go beyond plus ultra. With that, I watched as they left and briskly returned to the observation room. We are all set time to analyze these candidates to the best of our ability, Nizu said as I took my seat next to him and Marinette. Indeed. And with that, we sat there and took notes on all the hero prospects, noting down all of their points and hero points. It wasn't until the final minute did we see something truly special after unleashing the 0-pointer. A purple-haired kid suddenly leapt into the air and punched the 0-pointer in the head, destroying it and breaking his legs and an arm to protect a girl who got pinned by some rubble. Well, that concludes the entrance exam, so send me the files for the students you have picked along with their costume request forms. We need a rest. Now, frankly, what is to come at a daunting task. Have a safe trip home, Izuku, and Marinette, Nizu, and a bunch of the teachers said as we walked back to the car and drove to the estate. Well, that was kind of fun to watch since I have never really seen a quirk, Marinette said on the drive home. All too true, but we will defiantly have our hands full in the coming weeks, I said. Lots of hero costumes to work on for me and your first line of outfits to start for you. You will need our rest, she said, starting to doze off a bit. Izuku POV. 2 weeks after the entrance exam. 2 weeks, and I have nearly finished the order of 40 costumes for UA High School. 38 costumes are done, and I am down to 2 left to do. The thing is, I don't like how revealing their designs are, so I called the school and asked them to arrange a meeting with the 2 students. They should be here shortly. Mr. Midoriya, your 4 o'clock is here, my assistant said. Thank you, Jane, send them in, please, I said, pressing a button on my desk to speak to her. With that, I grabbed a brewed pot of green tea and a tray with some tea snacks on it. I heard the door open behind me while I set them down on the table. Welcome to my office. Please take a seat on the couch. I need to grab my notepad. Then we can begin, I said while pouring out 3 cups of tea. After grabbing my notepad, I sat in a chair opposite the 2 girls. One was tall with a very mature figure and long raven black hair, and matching eyes. Her hair was pulled back into a ponytail. She was blushing slightly. The other, well, I couldn't tell much about her features since she was invisible, but with her cloths, I could get a vague outline of what her body must look like. So, let's start with some introductions, I began calmly. I am Izuku, Midoriya CEO of Midoriya Technologies. Your turn. My name is Toru Hagakure, the invisible girl said. My quirk is invisibility. I am Momo Yairozu, the raven head said, still blushing. My quirk is called creation. A wonderful start, both of you, I said, adding to my notes. So on to your costumes. Mind explaining to me your design choices? Well, I went with just some boots and a pair of gloves because my invisibility only works on my skin, Toru said, and I wrote down every word. Well, that tracks for someone invisible, I commented to myself. How does your quirk work exactly? Can you turn off your invisibility? Basically, my entire body is invisible, she said. That's about it. Interesting. From a biological level, your invisibility could be derived from a chameleon's ability to camouflage. I mused to myself, then looked up to her, where you're using light to mask your presence. Toru, kindly focus on one part of your body. Let's say your left hand, allow the light to work naturally. Okay, she said, and we all sat there for a moment watching her closely. Then without reason, the light that would be around her hand began to sparkle and shift. Slowly, a hint of a skin tone began to show through. Then she lost concentration. I can work with this. I'll need to get a small skin sample from you before you leave here today, Toru, I said, writing down several ideas for the new costume design. Okay, why are you changing the design of the costume to begin with? She asked me. For starters, I didn't want someone going around naked most of their day. I explained while writing. Secondly, there are some laws that might be broken if one day your body just showed up, and I wanted to avoid that. Fair enough, she said calmly. Now, Momo, it is your turn. Explain your quirk, please. I asked her. She was still blushing. Right, she said loudly. I can create any non-living material/object from my skin by transforming the molecular structure of my fat cells. In order to create something, I need to know its molecular structure. Simple and concise. I need a skin sample from you as well before you leave here today. I explained simply. I will call you both back here when I have some prototype materials for you to try. From there, I can make your suits in a jiffy. With that, I began to collect 2 small skin samples from them both and place them in labeled containers. Feel free to enjoy the rest of the tea. I need to get to work on this as soon as possible. I left them to their own devices at my couch and walked over to my lab just next door. 1 week later, I was working in my lab and finally had results available to begin testing with the 2 of them. For Toru's quirk, I created a synthetic vinyl-like material I believe should behave like her skin when exposed to her quirk. For Momo, I decided to work and focus on a material my mom helped my dad come up with for Midnight's hero costume, a self-healing material. The ultimate reason being I needed a lot more time to perfect the synthetic fabric I was working on that would allow her creations to pass harmlessly through as if it were just another layer of skin. The new self-healing material works about 10 times faster than the one my parents made. It was late, so I sent them an email requesting them to drop by tomorrow for me to run some tests. It was a Saturday, so it should be fine. The next day, I was wrapping up the temporary suit for Momo when I got the call from Jane that they were here. Take them to my office and let them know I will be there momentarily, I told her as I began to load up a trolley with some things I would need for the tests. With everything loaded up, I walked over to my office, wheeling the trolley along. Welcome back, you two. I have some good news and some bad news. What is the good news? Toru asked me. Well, in your case, I believe I have made a successful synthetic material that should behave like a second skin in regards to your quirk. I said, pulling out a glove. I hope you practiced what we discovered the last time you were here. Yeah, I did, she said, and I handed her the glove. Please put that on and try what we practiced with it, I requested. She did as I asked, and most interestingly, immediately after concentrating, the glove disappeared. This is great, she shouted excitedly. Indeed, I said excited. Unfortunately, for now your hero costume can only be made of that material. I need some more time to make other materials with the same properties. So that would be the bad news then? She asked me. Yes and no, I told her. Momo, the plans I have for your suit, the tests, are still inconclusive. So I still have to wait for mine then, Momo said. That's okay. Well, yes, you'll have to wait for the best suit I can provide you, I said calmly. I did take the liberty of making you a temporary suit from a modified, pre-existing fabric made by my parents. I explained, getting up and bringing in a mannequin with her temporary costume on it. Oh, it's amazing, she said, looking at the specialized jumpsuit I made for her. This outfit is made from an improved version of the material used to make Midnight's costume, I explained. The material self-regenerates at 10 times its old speed. Now, for obvious reasons, I can't send you home with this. It will be sent to you school, with an explanation for why this is only a temporary option. Understandable, she told me. Now for Toru, I began. What would you like for a more permanent design? Principal Nizu's POV. Ever since that day, there have been rumors of this hidden hero Yes, it all traces back to the sludge villain incident. Death Arms is the first to experience this so-called blessing, providing him with a plan and a not insignificant increase to his quirk. Since then, when and wherever heroes needed a moment to think of how best to help in the situation at hand, out of nowhere, a shining blue butterfly would show up and a blessing would be given. Then when the mission is accomplished, the blessing is taken back and the butterfly flies off in a specific direction. Attempts to follow the butterfly have further left us baffled, as after a certain point the butterfly merely disappears. Most peculiar, I said aloud to myself. Izuku's POV. I was back home studying that riddle, trying with my full attention to figure it out. Nuru and Dusu were in my bedroom, watching TV and messing with some of my old toys. Liquid precious metal of the sun, I said aloud. Dust from the sky, now precious, shall heal the injured animal. The animal shall make a sacrifice. Well, ancient civilizations long ago attributed gold with the sun, so that could be one of the ingredients. What could dust from the sky be, though, and a sacrifice of the animal? That sounds disturbing. Marinette walked into my study with a plate of omuris. I brought you some breakfast. You working from home again today? She asked me, setting the plate down in front of me. Actually, I am taking the day off while I wait for some simulations to wrap up, I said, taking a scoop of the dish and eating it. What do you plan to do today? Well, ever since you made me the head of the fashion division, I've been pretty busy, she said. But I decided to take a break from the heavy business because I wanted to focus on some of my own designs for a bit. Ah, sound good to me, I said. Suddenly we were interrupted by the door bell going off. You expecting someone, Izuku? Marinette asked me. Melissa said she would be coming over for a few weeks, but she should be here tomorrow, I said, standing up and walking out of the study into the foyer, Marinette following closely behind me. I looked on the screen for the door cam and saw an old Asian man wearing a stereotypical Hawaiian shirt and carrying a phonograph on his back. I pressed the comms button. Hello, how can I help you, sir? I asked him. Oh, hello, may I come in? I wish to speak to a young man living here, he said after his surprise left him. Can I have a name, sir, and who you wish to speak to? I asked back. Oh, you may call me Master Fu, he said calmly. As for who I am here to see, I suppose he would be the master of this estate. You've been speaking to him, I said. Now please tell me why you are here. I am here to speak to you about the miraculous you are in possession of, he whispered, and my eyes bulged. Go ahead and open the door, Marinette, I said, looking nervous. I had half a mind to run to my room and retrieve Nuru. Ah, thank you, young miss, for letting me in, he said to Marinette at the door. How do you know about the miraculous? I said, cutting off Marinette from speaking. I am their guardian, he said. Without warning, Dusu rushed in and slammed into Master Fu's face. Fu, it's been so long since I've seen you, she said, squishing his face. I'm sorry, Master, but I couldn't stop her, Nuru said, coming to my side. What the hell are those things? Marinette screamed out. I slapped my hand to my forehead. Let's go to the living room, and I'll explain everything once you calm down, I said. With that, we all went to the living room and sat down. I explained everything I knew about Nuru and Dusu, and Fu jumped in to explain anything I could not. So these little guys can give powers to anyone who wear their respective jewelry, she said, playing with Dusu. In simple terms, yeah, I said. Each one represents a concept or emotion, and they're kind of gods. You own two of the jewelry items, the one for the butterfly and the one for this peacock? She asked. Yes, my parents believed they were the source of the tales of heroes from long before quirks existed, I explained. They were quite right. Speaking of, Master Fu said. Since I have been in this country, I have heard whisper of heroes suddenly gaining more power and rumors of a hidden hero. What connects both occurrences is the appearance of a blue butterfly. Izuku, are you using the miraculous? Yeah, I use them whenever I feel a strong emotion from a hero that has no clue what to do in an emergency, I explained to him. Then I don't think there is anything to fear about letting you keep the miraculous in your charge, Master Fu said. You're using them in the correct manner. Now on to the last question I had to ask. What is it? I asked him. Well, would you mind if we stay here with you? He asked. No, I certainly have a space, I began. Then it hit me. Wait, we? Out of the phonograph, I heard chuckles as more Kwame flew out of it. Yes, we, Fu affirmed. Izuku POV. A lot has happened since Master Fu showed up. He pulled me aside and asked me how long the peacock has been damaged. I explained to him that it has been broken since I got it, and he seemed to look down in contemplation. After I told him about the riddle I found to fix it and how I was devoted to fixing it as soon as I figured it out. It was around that time that Melissa showed up with a lawyer who was holding a tablet with David's face on it. "Hello, Izuka, mind if we come in?" he asked. "No problem." I let them in and followed them to the living room. "So, Mr. Shield, what is with the lawyer?" Yes, that you see me, and your parents were in contact every now and again, mostly during iExpo. He said. I nodded for him to continue. "Well, at one point, after a fair amount of drinking, we brought up our kids. You know, both of you are quirkless, and when we thought it might be a good idea to have a merger of companies in the future." "Okay, so you wanted to merge Shield Industries with Midoriya Tech," I said, confused. "So you wanted me to marry Melissa?" "Yeah, something like that," he replied. "Well, as it turned out, we had way too much to drink, and evidently ended up making a contract stating you and Melissa would marry." "Wait, you mean to tell me that you and my parents arranged a marriage between Melissa and me?" I shouted. "Well, we knew that it was hard being quirkless, so we thought if your spouse was also quirkless, it would be easier," he said, looking down and pressing his fingers together. "Dad, that doesn't make it better," Melissa said. "How long have you known?" I asked her. Since the lawyer came by and reminded Dad about the contract. Apparently, they were coherent enough to do this with his lawyer present. She said, "That was about 2 days before telling you I was coming to visit." "Well, if you want, we can break it off. No strings attached." David said. "Yes, please," I said. "I mean, it's not like I don't like your daughter, sir. I would rather something like that bloom naturally, you know." I said that, looking Melissa in the eyes. She was blushing profusely. "I couldn't agree more, Zuko," he said. "Have a great stay with your friend Melissa, and enjoy yourself, especially since you graduated early." "Wait, you what I wanted to go to graduation," I said. "Sorry for not telling you," she said. "It was just you were so busy with the costume order from UA." "It's okay, I would have liked to know, but it's okay," I said, patting her shoulder. Shortly after the lawyer, after helping Melissa bring in some bags, left, and I introduced Melissa to Master Fu, Marinette was at the office working on something or other. It was right around then that I felt a surge of strong negative emotion. It was strong enough to cause me to fall to my knees briefly. "Izuka, are you okay?" Melissa said, seeing me drop. "Oh dear, we need to act fast," Fu said. "Izuka, do you think you'll need help?" "No, I don't know until I get there," I said, standing back up with Fu's help. "Explain everything to Melissa. In short, I need to go now." Niru wings rise. With that, I transformed and rushed out the door, running through the forest after crossing the property line, all the while making my way to the source of the strong emotion. Eventually, I saw a large dome in the distance and realized it must be the unforeseen simulation joint facility. I remember seeing files for its design in my father's files. Midoriya Technologies evidently was a large contributor for UA. Once I got to the building, I climbed up and looked through the glass dome to see a class of hero students, 2 teachers, and what looked to be an army's worth of villains led by a man with hands covering his body. Next to him stood a hulking behemoth bird-headed man that frankly looked dead inside. Melissa POV, a few moments ago. Wait. Izuku is a superhero using a piece of ancient jewelry that you lost centuries ago on a Tibetan mountain? I asked the old man Izuku, called Master Fu. "Yes, now for the love of God, put these glasses on and follow the Kwami's instructions," he said, shoving some folding glasses into my hand. "I don't think these are my prescription," I said. "Doesn't matter, they automatically adjust to you," he said. "Now enough wasting time and transform already." I unfolded the glasses and a ball of light manifested and dissipated, revealing a tiny brown pony. "Hello, chosen receiver of the horse miraculous. In order to transform, you need simply say cocky full gallop." The tiny horse said. "Put on the glasses quickly," Fu said. I pulled off my current pair, and this new pair changed to very practical glasses. "Cocky full gallop?" I questioned, and the tiny horse was pulled into the glasses. They returned to how they looked before I unfolded them, and 5 lights formed on the right lens. Suddenly, my cloths began to change into a brown jumpsuit with some leather-looking armor additions. Some boots with wings formed around my legs, and a large horseshoe appeared on my back. My hair pulled itself up into a ponytail, and lastly, I gained brown highlights in my hair. I looked myself over for a long minute till my back began to vibrate. I pulled the horseshoe, and between the prongs a holographic screen appeared with Izuku looking at me. "Hey, good Fu gave you a miraculous to use so we can communicate," he said. "Right? What do I call you when you're like this?" I asked. "Call me Monarch. What should I call you?" "Pegasus," I said calmly after some thought. "Okay, Pegasus, when I hang up the call, I need you to call the authorities, and when I call you again, I need you to use your power to get me out of here," he told me, and then promptly hung up the phone. Izuku POV. Shortly after hanging up, something happened. One of the teachers leaped down and began to fight against the villain hordes. On the other hand, the students began to run for the door, followed by the other teacher, but they were intercepted by this misty villain guy. He was dressed like a butler, and out of the holes for his hand and neck, purplish-black mist billowed forth, obscuring his face. Then the hero, who must be 13, began to use her quirk on him, trying to swallow him up. He opened a portal in front of him, and behind her, causing her quirk to tear apart her hero costume and wound her. When she canceled her quirk too late, I felt a ping of regret from the misty villain. It was deeply suppressed, but it was there. "Itching my wonder," I said, popping my cane's bubble and taking the little butterfly, covering it and empowering it. "Fly to him, my little Tenchi." I released it in under the window. The Tenchi flew down and slipped in behind him after he opened a portal for himself, after he sent most of the kids away, and one escaped out the front door. Kurogyri? POV. I showed up right behind my master and was about to alert him to the lack of all might and that a student had slipped out the door when I felt something on my nose. Suddenly, I wasn't in control anymore. I couldn't move, I couldn't speak. "Oboro Shirikomo, I see your remorse for what your other self has done," a voice said. I looked around and saw a man with sky blue, billowing hair and a blue Air Force-like hat with goggles. He was speaking to a man with lilac hair, turquoise eyes, and a butterfly-shaped mask protecting his identity. "I offer you the ability to take control of yourself once more. Furthermore, you will have the ability to use your clouds like he does as a form of teleportation. Lastly, I offer you this blessing permanently. Do you accept?" "Yes, with all my heart, yes," the man said. Shota, Aizawa POV. I was pinned by this thing that Hanzi over there called a Nomu, when out of nowhere the misty guy showed up behind Hanzi and just froze. Then he dropped to his knees, and around him blue light billowed. Suddenly the Nomu was launched into the air by a very familiar blue cloud. I looked up, and to my utter shock, I saw a very familiar face. "What's up, USJ? Loud Cloud is back in action today," Oboro said loudly to the sky. "Hey, Aizawa, you miss me?" Aizawa POV. "What the hell is going on here?" Hanzi shouted. "What have you done to Kurogyri?" "Allow me to answer that question, villain," a masculine voice said from somewhere up above us. We all looked up to the lighting rafters of the USJ and could barely make out the shape of a man in a costume. He wore royal purple clothing with a touch of some blue. That's all we saw from this great distance. Suddenly, he leaped down and onto one of Oboro's clouds, which gently brought him to above the fountain, allowing us to see him more clearly. He had lilac hair, turquoise eyes, and in a silvery mask shaped vaguely like a butterfly. We wore a royal purple suit with a celeste blue dress shirt and a royal purple trench coat with a celeste blue lining that glowed faintly. "You see, this man here is Kurogyri, or well, he is who Kurogyri used to be," the man said. "I have merely given back his autonomy." "And who the hell are you?" Hanzi asked him. "Well, I suppose this is the first time anyone has seen me," he said seemingly to himself. "But I'm certain you all have heard of my escapades. I am the hidden hero the media has been so excited about. The hero who is unseen, but always there to aid those who need a little help. The name I have given myself is Monarch. You're the guy who sends out those butterflies." I shouted out loud, now on my feet. "Yes, and I have given my help to you guys with the help of a friend of mine," he said, gesturing to everywhere. He looked at a non-existent watch. Said friend has contacted the police, which will be here in about 15 minutes. "You monster!" Hanzi shouted and leaped up, touching the cloud Monarch was on. It began to fade to dust, and Monarch fell, dodging a touch from Hanzi and landing next to me and Oboro. "Not smart to reveal your plan like that," I shouted at him. "Oh, I didn't reveal the whole plan to him. He told me my friend made 2 calls. "What do you mean?" Oboro asked. "Boom. The doors at the top of the stairs behind me must have been blown open. There is no need to fear. Why? From the smoke stepped forth a terrifying sight. Because we are here, a small, distinguished voice said, and the smoke cleared to reveal the whole of the teachers at UA. All Might, Nizu, Midnight, Vlad King, Hound Dog, Ectoplasm, Power Loader, Snipe, and Present Mike. Gur, Master, get me out of here. Hansi shouted at the top of his lungs. Suddenly, he bent, overheaving, as a thick, dark liquid began to pour from his mouth. No, you don't. Snipe shouted, shooting his right shoulder and his left knee before the goop consumed Hansi, and he was gone thanks to a weird warping quirk. After his disappearance, we spent the next few hours rounding up the remaining villains and gathering our injured students for treatment, bringing the villains to the multitude of police vehicles which showed up not long after gathering of the villains began. We need to bring you into, one of the police said to Monarch. I don't think so, he said, and then the bubble on his cane popped open and he looked like he made a call. When he closed the bubble again, a portal of some kind appeared behind him and he fell into it with his closing instantly. That villain got away again. Sakachi said, I think we have more pressing matters other than trying to find him. Niza chimed in. For instance, we have no idea what his quirk is apart from seemingly bringing forth the best in someone or perhaps bringing back the dead. He gestured to Oboro for evidence. Last I recall, this former student of ours died some years ago. You got that right. Nizami and Aizawa attended the funeral. Present Mike said, I for one don't think it's really him. Yes, we will need to run DNA tests to confirm. Nizu said, rubbing his chin with his paw. Trust me, guys, I'm me, Oboro said from a cloud seat he had created. Frankly, I don't know about being dead or anything. Last thing I remember before becoming that thing was being wheeled around a hospital somewhere. Regardless, we need to be sure, Nizu said. I believe him. I interrupted finally from my ambulance that was patching me up. What? Mike said you of all people believe him? More accurately, I believe what Monarch said about him. I said, he returned Oboro's autonomy. Interesting. Nizu said, Izuku POV. Nuru wing rest, I said after falling into my living room to transforming. Well done, Pegasus. Thank you, Monarch, Melissa said, smiling at me. Cocky dismount, Sheeta transformed. That was nerve-wracking. I didn't even know if that would work. I said, what do you mean? She asked me. Leaving him with that blessing, I thought it might disappear after I left. I explained. No, that is not how the butterfly works, Master Fu said. The blessing, as you put it, is quite permanent until the object containing the butterfly is destroyed or you remove the blessing yourself. He took a sip of tea. Huh, interesting. I said calmly. While I'm tired, I will see you all tomorrow. Good night. Izuku's POV. So, Melissa, I recall you mentioning graduating early. I said, yeah, I did after this visit. I'm going to help out my dad, she responded. Well, that's a shame. I was wondering if you wanted to work with me in Marinette, I said. Wait, you mean at Midoriya Technologies? She asked. Yes, I said bluntly. Specifically, I want to start a tradition at Midoriya Technologies. When the CEO is replaced by the next generation, so too are the heads of the other two departments. When it was my parents, they kind of both just stuck to their own lane. My mother's fashion and my dad's tech. This led to a few arguments here and there. Usually when it came to implementing tech into hero suits. Marinette is already the head of the fashion department. You would be taking the tech department. The three of us work well together. That's where I got the idea from. What do you think? I love the idea. Let me call my father and talk it through. She said, hugging me. No problem. I said, hugging back, and with that she disappeared to her room for a while. Small time skip to dinner. I'll take the position as Izuku, Melissa said as she walked into the dining room. Wonderful, I exclaimed. We have a big day tomorrow then, so eat up and we should head to bed. The next day, while we ate breakfast this morning, I explained to Melissa how the science division, including myself, have been working on a clean, renewable energy source. The goal is to run our building off of it and eventually, with enough data, convince the government to switch to the energy source. Okay, what's the end goal? Melissa asked me. You'll have to read the research papers, Marinette interrupted me. I didn't fully understand them myself, but he had me read them over, just explaining it in case we were kidnapped. He thinks read knowledge is more secure for some reason. It is when it is mostly scientific jargon, I said. Think about it. How well do you remember your science textbooks from school? Fair enough, she conceded. After passing Melissa the file, we all loaded up in my car to head to work. I drove us the whole way. Melissa was quietly reading the file in the back next to Marinette. So you're trying to make a miniature sun to better study the fusion reaction of a star's core, she said. And we think we can make a small Dyson sphere, of course, and learn from that to create clean energy, I said. Interesting. How many tests have you preformed? She asked me. Well, new calculations after failure take me around 2 to 3 months, I said calmly. I started working on it a little while after my parents' death. Took me about a year to create the tech to attempt to produce the sun. The first attempt was near immediate collapse, and I've had a few pretty close attempts over the last year. I think I finally have it this time, though, but we'll see. The next attempt is today. Today, Melissa shouted. Yeah, you'll be down there with me, I said. I have a good feeling about today. I think it will work. Finally, we arrived at Midoriya Technologies campus, and we all got out of the car after I parked it. Okay, this is where we depart, Marinette said. Take care of him, Melissa. We watched her head up to the fashion division in the elevator. Once it was back down to our floor, I walked in and swiped my key card. Just like that, the elevator began to descend into the earth. After a while, Melissa spoke up. How deep does this go down? She asked me. Approximately 4 kilometers. I said, we needed it that deep for security reasons, and it allows any excess energy to be grounded with ease. With a shudder, the elevator came to a stop, and we stepped out to sea and lab with many things set up of it. In approximately the center of the lab was a raised pedestal with 4 arching towers surrounding the open space. Looking close enough, there was a slight shimmer to the air surrounding the platform every now and again. Surrounding the area were a few lab stations here and there, with 2 other lab techs working. Tori, Skara, how go the preparations? I asked, walking into the lab with Melissa following me. Preparations are just about ready for our first practical test, sir. Tori told me she must have gotten a new haircut. It was up and in a bit of a punk style. Great, let's get to work, I said, walking over to the closest station to the reaction chamber. Melissa, since you aren't in the system yet, just enjoy the show. I began to type on my PC. Come with me, please? I heard Skara say. Oh, okay, she said, and I heard them enter the observation room. I finished typing the command in, and I pressed enter. Okay, here we go. Cross your finger, everyone, I said, stepping back to observe a bit. From the ceiling, 4 mechanical tentacles descended. Each one was carrying a different orb of solidified elements. What are they carrying, Izuku? Melissa asked over the intercom. 2 of them are hydrogen and helium, I said simply. The other 2 are both uranium to kickstart the reaction. With that, we watched as the tentacles placed the orbs one by one into the gravitational field, where they almost immediately crashed into each other and combined. Now all it needs in theory is heat, I said, stepping back up and pressing enter on the second order. The 4 arches shot out 2 beams of energy each, and we watched as the elements began to heat up. Goggles, everyone, Tori shouted. Just in time, too, because they immediately after we put the goggles on the ball reacted with the heat and its components fusing and creating the fission reaction we were searching for. We actually did it, I said, just observing the small sun we created in the chamber. Activate the energy siphons in the tower. Right away, sir, Tori said, and like that the towers opened up into an array of solar panels. Energy is being produced at a stable pace and rising. I walked up and touched the containment field. We actually did it, I said, admiring my work as close as I could. That was when the alarms began to ring and the security light flashed. So the energy is stable, but is also growing unstable as time is progressing, it seems. Tori said as I saw a solar flare-looking arch cleanly cut through the solar panels it touched. Then, as I was watching, the star began to expand in diameter. Tori, get to the observation room now, I said. The star is beginning to collapse in on itself. What about you, sir? She asked as she walked over to the door. I'll join you, Scar and Melissa, as soon as I can, but one of us needs to feed additional energy into the containment field so it doesn't collapse. I was at my PC now, frantically typing to feed as much energy into the field to contain the collapsing star. Izuku, I heard Melissa shout, there is no more time, you need to get out of there. I looked up and saw she was right. I began to move as fast as I could to her at the door to the observation room. There was a loud boom, and looking back, I saw the field fail and fall into the forming black hole. Not that the black hole will remain an issue for long, it won't stabilize at that size, but it certainly made my job of getting to Melissa harder. Finally, with a long stretch of my arms, I managed to grab her outstretched hands before the pull began to take me. My feet lifted off of the ground, and I felt an immense pull on my body from the black hole. I released my hold on her arms, but she grabbed my hand herself. "Melissa, you have to let me go now, or you'll be pulled in." I said. "No, I can't lose you. Marinette told me to take care of you," I heard her say. "Melissa," I looked back to the black hole and watched closely. "Just trust me on this right now. This is more than a lab mistake. This is fate." "What do you mean?" She shouted at me over the alarm. I could feel a strong emotion coming from the black hole. I told her, "Someone has to help them, and I swear I'll be back as soon as I can. I'm sure they have their own heroes. We need you here," she said. I pulled myself closer to her and saw her crying. "I promise I'll be back as soon as I can," I said. Then I pulled myself up to her and kissed her on the cheek. She blushed, and her hands released my arms, and I was pulled back to the black hole. "Nuru, wings rise," I shouted just before I hit the black hole. I transformed as the hole enveloped me. I saw flashes of dimensions. Most of what I saw looked like me. I saw a world where I had red hair and was cutting someone's head off. Then one where the fundamental elements bent to my will. There was one where I was fighting a giant monster in this weird suit. Then another where all I could make out was a trail of green lightning. I saw a version of me wielding a war hammer that was pretty small, all things considered. There was also a bald me and a version of me wearing a bandana covering the upper part of my head. Then a flash of bright light as I began to fall from the sky. I twirled my kin to slow my fall and then rolled as I landed on a roof. "Now, then where am I?" I said, standing up and seeing the Eiffel Tower. "Okay, nothing seems to be going wrong here," I said to myself. I swear I felt strong negative emotions coming from the black hole. Nuru wing fall. I de-transformed, and Nuru swirled around my neck and looked around. "Paris," Nuru said. "It feels weird here. It's like there's two of me here." "Nuru, you okay?" I asked him. "Yeah, I think so," he said. "It's passing now." It was like what you describe as a headache. "Okay, just like the pain I felt through the black hole, I can't narrow it down," I said, "and nothing looks out of place around the city." "We should probably get off of the roof," Nuru said. "Yeah," I said, looking around. "You should hide. Quick, into my suit's pocket." "Right," he said, flying into my suit pocket. With that, I found my way to an unlocked roof access door and down to the road the building was on. "Okay, we should find a library and do some research on this universe. This Paris seems to be the same as our universes, at least layout-wise," I whispered to Nuru. "Then you know where a library is you can use?" he asked me. "Yeah, there is one at Marinette's old school. I believe it is typically open to locals, and if not, I think I can pass for a student," I said, starting to walk in that direction. Once there, I snuck into the school, pretending to be a student, and went straight to the library, specifically a computer. "Let's see now, forced off, let's see if quirks exist here," I whispered to Nuru as I typed it up. No results came up that matched what I was looking for. "Okay, maybe Midoriya Technologies still exists?" That was a no as well. Finally, I typed in Izuku Midoriya. No results found. There wasn't even a me in this world, or if there was, he wasn't famous in any way like I was back home. "What about Master Fuizuku?" Nuru said. "You're right," I said, typing in his name. What came up was a shop about 3 streets away. It says he owns and operates an Eastern-style healing and antique shop. Whatever that means doesn't sound like he serves the same role in this world. Nuru. After that, we left and found a place we could sort of talk in private. We settled on a park that wasn't too busy, and I sat down on a park bench. "Okay, it was a stupid idea for me to just come here." I whisper my head in my hands. "It will take me forever to figure out how to create a portal back home." "Well, if we could track down the horse Miraculous, you might not need to create a new machine to get us home," Nuru said. "You could amplify the powers of the Miraculous and then create a portal home." "Yeah, but assuming Master Fu isn't the Guardian, we can safely assume that the Order is likely still around, meaning they would have a Miraculous. Something tells me it would be less likely for them to help me than for Fu too." "What are you thinking then, Izuku?" Nuru asked. "I think we need to find a way to earn some money in the meantime," I said, pulling out my wallet, Z&D, checking how much money I had on me. Let's go apply for sites and ship here, for starters. I stood up and began walking to the mayor's office. That was our first day in this new universe. Now it's been nearly a year this world's time, no idea how long it's been in my home dimension. I just hope it hasn't been long. Since then, I've gotten a day job working at the school Marinette went to in my universe as the new science teacher, their old one evidently needing a leave of absence. I've also got a part-time job helping out with a fashion company, the Agresti brand. I help out with the sewing of new pieces and have helped the owner get out of funk once or twice. I help them out on weekends. Anyway, I best wrap up this journal entry. I need to prep for my first class this new school year. Until I write again, farewell and have a good time. Marinette 2's POV. I walk down the stairs and see my parents setting out some of the baked goods, some croissants, and chocolate bread. My dad looked up and saw me. Ah, there she is. He said, happily coming over to me. Marinette, your breakfast is getting cold, honey. He walked behind me as I stuffed some books into my school bag. Sorry, Dad. I'm not hungry today, I said, zipping the bag up. Gotta go. That's fine, he said. I'll grab some croissants for the road. The road? I asked, shocked, cutting him off. Oh, I'm so excited to school, Dad said, practically jumping on the balls of his feet. What? I said, shocked. No. Dad, listen, this is not the day I'm going there alone. You don't want them to make fun of me, do you? Of course not, honey, he said, putting down his hands. I'll get you after school. I stopped in my tracks on my way to the door and turned to him. I made beautiful sweets for all your friends, and I didn't forget your favorite unicorn cakes. He revealed excitedly behind him some white cupcakes topped with vanilla frosting, 2 candies that looked like ears, and a unicorn horn. Oh no, I said, seeing them. How many times do I have to tell you? I have 0 friends. I looked down and slouched a bit. Tom, my mom came over. I smell something burning. Oh, no, my dad said, surprised. Not the baguettes. He wanted the back to try and save them. I'm sorry, Mom, I said. I know Daddy means well, but what's wrong, honey? She asked me. I'm worried they'll make fun of me. I say, turning away slightly. Can you imagine what they'd think? Stop worrying about what others think, she said, placing her hand on my shoulder. There's only one you have to listen to. She placed her hand on my heart. We looked at each other for a moment. Mom, but how do you make your dreams come true? I asked. You just have to believe in yourself, she told me. I lifted myself back, filled with joy again. You're right, Mom. With that, I made my way to my new school. On my way, I passed by Gabriel Agresti's boutique as someone stumbles out wearing a lab coat and a kind of sloppily done tie. On his way out, he says to a well-dressed lady, "Thanks for waking me up, Natalie. First day back at school. I really shouldn't be late." He said, "No problem, Izuku. Don't want Mr. Agresti seeing you like that after all," the well-dressed lady said. As he was leaving, he bumped into me, and I dropped my sketchbook with some loose papers flying out. He immediately grabbed them and presented them to me. "These are yours, right?" he asked, and when he saw my, his eyes widened like he had seen a ghost. He was about 5 feet 10 inches with messy green hair with black highlights. His eyes were green and had some heavy bags under them, and he had a unique pattern of freckles on each cheek. "Thanks for picking those up for me," I said, grabbing the pages from his hand. "Well, I gotta go to school. Have a good day." After that hiccup, I made it to school just fine. Outside school, I could see Nino skateboarding and like a maniac almost running over Nathaniel. I walked by and heard Kim talking with someone about working out, and I bumped into someone slightly getting look. "Outfit?" Chloe asked Sabrina in front of the stairs. "Perfect," she replied, checking it of a list. "Books?" Chloe asked. "Check, again of a list." "Adrian?" Sabrina asked. "Huh, I promised to show him around," Chloe said, looking at her as she began drawing circles around her drink. "If all goes according to plan, he'll so escort me to the ball come December. Everything must go according to plan." "Okay, Sabrina." "According to plan," Sabrina added to the list and checked off. Check. I look up at the building and breath in and out smoothly, resigning myself to walk past them to class. Suddenly, Nino comes out of just about nowhere and skates by. I barely get out of the way and bump into Chloe. Almost in slow motion, the lid on her drink falls off, and a drop is sent flying out and onto her sweater. I can hear several people gasp as the cup now lands on the ground. "Ah," Chloe let out. "You just ruined my Gabriel Agresti sweater." I began before she grabbed me. Marinette, you are so, she shouted before being cut off herself. Ahem, a girl I didn't recognize said, holding up a phone, clearly recording the interaction. Don't stop on my account, I'm just a fly on the wall. Chloe looked back at me. Going to be my new best friend, she said, forced. It's only a priceless cashmere sweater. Come on, Sabrina, let's get a class, we much to study. With that, she and Sabrina walked off into the school. I am so angry right now, she said at the top of the stairs. I could eat a piece of bread with butter. But that's carbs and fat, Sabrina replied. You could break out. I know, Chloe said dramatically as she walked into school. Later, I was walking in the hallway with the girl who rescued me. You didn't need to do that, I told her. Oh, sorry, she said sarcastically. Did I need to take a number behind the line of friends who were coming to your rescue? Joking. Name's Alia. She reached out her hand. I took it and we shook. Thanks, I'm Marinette. I said. You have a rep around here? Alia told me. A magnet for catastrophe. You do not disappoint. Some people have to try to fail that hard. Yeah, I try not to, I said solemnly. You might want to stay away. Are you kidding? She told me. I live for the action. I'm going to stick to you like glue. I think you and I were meant to be. The bell rang. I had several classes. The first involved me giving a terrible performance on a recorder. There's some gymnastics in the gym. I face-planted, surprised I didn't break anything. In math, I failed miserably to get the answer onto the question on the board. All the while, Alia was there to support me. Finally, we had science before lunch period. When we got into the class, the teacher turned out to be the guy that ran into me. He was studying something on the board before he switched it to the lesson plan, chemistry. Today, I want you to mix together any two chemicals I put in front of you and observe the reaction, he said, coming around and placing trays of 5 chemicals in front of each of the groups. Don't forget to record your findings. Then tomorrow we'll discuss the science behind each out your group's findings. Alia told me to pick the chemicals and mix them. I grabbed 2 and slowly added 1 drop of green liquid to the other I picked. Almost immediately upon contact, a cloud of green smoke puffed up from the beaker. That is so cool, Alia shouted. After lunch and some more classes, it was almost time to go home, but I had another run-in with Chloe at my locker, and I managed to sneak away and hide in the library. There must be an exit other than the one I came in, I said, going further into the library. An emergency exit. I loped on in vain, going between 2 shelves to wallow. My life is over, I said, leaning against a bookcase. I'll have to leave Paris, change my name, dye my hair. Oh, a little luckier. I prayed to no one in particular. Please. The book behind my head was suddenly pulled away. I turned to S.E. by who. Before me stood a boy, my age, with blonde hair and green eyes. He was on the other side of the bookcase, with headphones in. Are you okay? He asked me, taking one bud out of his ear to hear better. Me? I asked back. Are you crying? He asked me. What? I asked, then shook my head. No, this is just, allergies. There's a lot of pollen in here. I mean, not pollen, dirt, dust. I must have it in my eyes. He said, going back to sit down and read some more. I'll be the first to admit my interest in him was rather creepy as I shifted books as I moved down the aisle to get a better look at him, till I rounded the corner and rested on the book return cart, which almost immediately rolled out from under me. He stood up hearing me fall. You sure you're all right? I hastily scooted away and into the bookshelf, knocking more books onto my head. I grabbed one and hastily hid behind it. I peeked out to see him in front of me, arm outstretched. Need a hand? He offered his to pull me up. I took it, and he helped me looking at the hand I touched his with. Wait, I said, turning around to talk to him, but he was gone. Much later, I was walking out of school, and once down the stairs, Hey, Marinella, why don't I walk you home? Chloe said. I began to run, bumping into a few people. Sorry, gotta run. I shouted back an apology. Friends don't run from friends who hate them. Chloe shouted at me. I ran into traffic, almost getting hit several times. I just want to have a nice, screaming exchange with you. Her voice was smaller since I was now further away. As I ran, I saw an old man in the middle of the road, triumphant that he had caught something, and a bus was coming. I ran out and grabbed him, getting the both of us safely out of the way. A car came barreling at us, stopping in the nick of time, cheers erupting from onlookers. I looked back at the old man. Are you okay? I asked. You risked your life to save me, he said, shocked. Wait a second, it is you. You come with me. He grabbed my hands and shook me a bit. Now, the world is in grave danger. I took my hands back. Okay, you seem fine, I said. Marinella, Chloe called, cutting through the crowd. Gotta go, I said, picking the old man up on his feet and running off. Hold on, remember. The old man shouted after me. Who saves a life saves the world. I continued running. Oh, I have to get away from all these crazies, I said to myself. Suddenly the old man was in front of me again. Don't be afraid, he said, or we all die. You are the one. The whole city's a loony bin, I said, running off again. I ran down an alley to hide. Oh, Marinella, Chloe called. Where art thou? Why are you so slow, Sabrina? You let her get away. I was carrying both our bags. Sabrina said, Oh, you only think about yourself. Find her, Chloe ordered her. I ran further into the alley, stubbing my toe, suppressing a shout, and hiding again. When I saw Sabrina, I pleaded silently with her to overlook me. Not here, she shouted in Chloe's direction. I sighed and leaned against the door. Then it suddenly opened, and I was inside this strange shop, the door slamming shut behind me. Third POV. Elsewhere on a rooftop, a familiar man stood, perched, having witnessed the accident moments ago. I guess it was wishful thinking to assume Fu didn't have some kind of cover before he met me. The man stood up, coat blowing in the mild wind. Suddenly, he looked over in a certain direction. Interesting. Well, let's see how these fledgling heroes handle this threat from the shadows on Nuru. He touched a brooch that was near his neck. Marinette 2's POV. In a small shop, a ladybug landed on my finger and then turned into this odd, glowing light. It led me to a stone slate with the phrase that old man had said, and when I read it out, the light went under a dresser and pulsed. I went to investigate and found earrings. Hesitantly, I put them on, and the shop was engulfed in a pinkish red smoke. Before me, a ball of smoke transformed into a little creature. That took long enough, Who? It said as the light died down. It looked around. My goodness, it tapped a light with its antenna, and it came on. Exciting. You discovered electricity. I zoomed under my knee. How girls can wear pants. Finally, my response was to scream quite loud. I covered ears, I guess. I forgot how loud this part could be. You. I started. No time to spare. It interrupted me. Let's do this quick, shall we? My name is Tiki, the Kwame of creation. It's nice to meet you, Marinette. Yes, I know your name. I'm a Kwame. Can you say Kwame? Right, never mind. It said, I'm a tiny genie, except I don't grant wishes. But together we'll do the most dangerous stunts, risk our lives, save the world. Ready? Last time I had a dream like this, I wet the bed. I said in panic. Acute, it said. This is real. The moth was lost to the greed of humanity. You don't know what it's capable of. The fate of the world is in your hands. What? I shouted. Right, let's try this another way. It said to itself. I'll include this one, cause well, it's a good song, but I ain't typing it out. Time skipped to after the song. I looked down to see a red suit covering my hands. I flipped them over, and there are black spots on the back. I look in the mirror and see I am in a suit that resembles ladybug spots with a mask covering my eyes, and my hair is a bit bluer. I scream out loud, terrified. After I calm down around my waist, I find a really ornate yo-yo. Whoa, I say to myself, letting it dangle slightly. HM, first a song, and now a yo-yo. What next? A tea set. Suddenly the yo-yo levitates up and moves around the room like magic. I touch it for a moment, then it wraps around me and pulls me around in circles and up and out the chimney. All the way to Notre Dame, where I see somebody dressed in a black cat suit on one of the statues. I crash into him through the stained glass window into the cathedral. I must have passed out for a moment when I came to we were tied together. Where am I? I shouted, seeing us tied upside down in the cathedral. Ahem, the cat boy says. Bonjour. Suddenly we both fall to the floor, him landing on his feet, and I face planted. What do you think you're doing? I say, still recovering from a fall. This is a dangerous place for a young lady, he said from nowhere. Excuse me? I replied. I'm no damsel in distress. Who even are you? Name's Chattenware, he replied. Do I know you? I asked. I'm a new hero in town. He said, to save the world. Huh. With what fur balls? I mocked with air quotes. He came up out of nowhere. Well, what are you supposed to be, a watermelon? Excuse me, I said. Guess that will do for a sidekick. He said, walking off. What? I said, I'm here to save the world. I pointed out my yo-yo flying up and landing on my head. 2. How he said, perched up high. I can see that. Coming in here all loud and messy. Giving away your every move. Oops. He knocked over a vase. So much for the element of surprise. I said, ever heard of a decoy? He asked. I don't understand, this is all wrong. I said to myself, all you have to do is follow my lead, he said. Sidekick. I'm not a sidekick, ah. I said, nervous. Shh, don't move. He told me. We both heard some grumbling and movement, but when we turned around, there was nothing. Do you have a plan? I asked him quietly. Of course I have a plan, he said, laid back. Do I have a plan? I have more than a plan. I cheered up some. I have 9 lives. And immediately feel back down again. The devastating power of destruction. I shrugged. Night vision, he said, making binoculars with his hands. Razor-sharp senses roar. Nothing could sneak up on me. He backed away. I raised my hand to point behind him, not to mention my weapon. This all in one thingamajig. This bar thing extended into a staff. Ready for takedown. He swung the staff up by the bottom and hit the monster square in the right nostril. He nudged it a few times, each time eliciting a grunt from the gargoyle thing, then began to growl deeply. He looked at me smugly before taking off, run. He shouted, passing me. The beast chased after him, growling all the while destroying chairs. Hey, not on the first date, he said as it almost bit him. Well, looks like you guys hit it off pretty well. I said, backing away, trying to leave. How about this sidekick? Catboy shouted at me, now positioned in front of the organ. He ducked at the gargoyle, flew at him into the pipes. And the winner is Chat. Noir, he sang his name. Then he was tackled to the ground by the gargoyle. Sidekick, what are you doing down there? He said from its back as it took flight again. Help me, it's my first time. What? I asked, fumbling for my yo-yo. I took off after them, screaming as they burst through another stained glass window. Oh, he said as they landed outside. I landed in front of them, seeing a crowd of people. Alia, right up front. Is that a watermelon? Someone asked. Told you. Chatmore said behind me. The gargoyle to the sky, one camera with my yo-yo tied to its tail. For so-called cat, you sure don't seem to land on your feet. I called up to him. It flew through the bell towers, ringing them, and then incidentally slamming me into them repeatedly. That's music to my ear, Chat called back at me. It dived down into the canal. Cannonball. I barely heard Alia on our way down. I'm at you live from a Notre Dame attack. I ended up skiing on the water as the beast dragged me. That was incredible. Oh my God, did you guys see that? She asked the crowd. She's a hero. A shiro. I think we've hit rock bottom, I said to myself. Chat popped out of the water. At least the fish is fresh, he said before going back below. Awoa. I said, are you okay? I asked him. After a moment, he shoved his hand out of the water and gave me a thumbs up. The gargoyle flew up, dousing a resturant boat back and in water. Sorry, I shouted at them as I flew by. It flew over a bridge, which resulted in me going under and getting flung into the air. Wait for me. Chat shouted back at me, steering the gargoyle by the head to turn around. I landed on some railroad tracks. I quickly checked I was okay, then heard him and saw him flying towards a train tunnel. I heard him scream before a train blew by me on the tracks. I grabbed my yo-yo and saw the door handle illuminate on the front car, and I let the yo-yo go. It caught around it, and the train pulled me along into the air. I saw a segment of the barrier illuminate, and I followed my instincts, using it to swing myself forward along the track, dodging traffic below to the best of my abilities. I saw my parents' car for a moment. They must be on delivery. Chat go, his foot caught in the rail, and I swooped up to the sky and down, managing to pull him free. The train ended up running the beast over, leaving behind a cloud of purple smoke. Chat, I asked as he came to. I looked him over. I'm glad you're all right. I looked over to the damage. Not bad for a sidekick, huh? I offer my hand to pull him to his feet. The police showed up looking for the troublemakers. Quickly, let's go, I told him, and we made a run for it. Once to safety, there was an odd clap of thunder, and a symbol flashed in the sky that looked like a mask. What was that? We asked together. An Akuma, a familiar voice said, coming out from behind a tree. Hold on, who ye there? I asked, both of us turning around. Now who the heck is this guy? Chat asked. Before you wonder who I am, you must discover who you are. The man said mysteriously. What? Chat asked. It's not hard, I said. He's insane. Well, I still think you look like a watermelon. He quipped back at me. Will you stop? I asked. Watermelon. Insane. Watermelon. Insane. Watermelon. Insane. Stop. The man said. We both looked at him. You ladybug hold the power of creation. Watermelon. I'm mock chat. Well, you chat noir. Hold the power of destruction. The man said. Cool, chat commented. Ha figures, I said, hand on my hip. And how come you know all this stuff? Chat asked the man. You must both defeat Hawkmoth. The man said, for he is the one transforming all this hate and anger into these horrible creatures. Hawk who? I asked. Stop them and capture their Akumas, he said. Yeah, easy. Chat said, pooching his palm. I got this covered. No, the man said. Stronger together. It's the only way to reach the path of balance between heart and mind, where you will not defeat Hawkmoth. The man disappeared. Chat looked behind the tree for him. I did not sign up for this, I said, walking closer. I understand, Chat said. You're afraid. Failure is not your enemy. Your fears are. I looked up at him. So just be my sidekick and you'll be safe. He offered his hand to me, and I reached out and slapped it. I can't stand this guy another minute, I said, walking away from him. Hold on, he said. Will I ever see you again? Oh, sure, I mocked. In your dreams and my nightmares. Or better yet, how about we wait till we both get killed and are in the afterlife? I used my yo-yo to swing away from the scene. Izuku's POV. They have potential, I said, sitting on the top of Notre Dame, looking down at the cat boy. Only time will tell for sure, I suppose. I'll need to look into Fu some more, it seems. Anyway, let's keep a close eye on those two and intervene if need be. Izuku's POV. Izuku Midoriya testing log. Log date. LBM 367. It has been approximately 1 year and a few days since I found my way into this dimension. I spoke into my log recorder. I have since deduced that my brash decision to come in hell may have been slightly unfounded. This universe does indeed possess the magic jewels known as the miraculous. I will now focus my efforts mostly on testing the multi-dimensional viewing device I have dubbed Yggdrasil. But Master, couldn't we just ask someone to help us create a bridge between this dimension and our own? Nuru came out and asked me. Well, the issue with that, Nuru, I began to explain, is simple. We don't know where this universe exists on the spectrum of the multiverse relative to our home dimension. You yourself have stated you exist in billions or realities all at the same time. Tell me, do you know where our home is in the vastness OT and infinite multiverse? No. He answered after some thought. Blind hopping is what got us here. I figured it would be best we avoid that on our way home. I said, I suppose that's fair. He said, thus far over the past few weeks, we have successfully gotten Yggdrasil to peek at other realities. I returned to my log. I have been able to confirm the existence of some of the universes I previously got mere glimpses of on my travel to this universe. There are issues that remain. One is locating our home dimension. The second problem is the power required to view these other dimensions is high. While I've been able to stabilize our simple clean reactor to test and use the Yggdrasil for now, it is unclear how long it will remain stable. So while we're working on locating our universe, I have begun calculations on a more stable reactor that should output the right amount of wattage and remain stable. I just need to finish the calculations and maybe find a metal that will be sufficient in creating a stable and long-lasting reaction. On to today's Yggdrasil locator test, continuing with 5D coordinate variations in increments of 1 from observed universes that also contain a version of myself. The screen lit up after some time, to revealing the universe that I had locked onto. Viewing this world through the screen, I pressed record on the device for science purposes. I could make out what appeared to be a younger version of myself, wearing a black and green hero costume and jumping from a cargo plane with multiple other heroes. Another failure, another new dimension discovered. I recorded into the log before disabling the recorder and checking the time on the watch of my own design. We need to get some sleep, Nuru. There's only 5 hours before we are due at the boutique. A few hours later, I was now at the boutique working on a new design that Mr. Agresti wanted to see. I was still quite tired, so I naturally, once I was finished with that design, that I wouldn't even be able to show him myself because I have my other job later as well. I fell asleep at my desk and got maybe another hour or two of sleep before Natalie, Mr. Agresti's assistant, woke me up. "Izuku, don't you have another job that you need to get to?" she asked, shaking me awake. "Huh, all right," I shouted, grabbing some of the unfinished designs I was still working on and hastily putting them away before I ran out of the boutique. "Thanks for waking me up first day back at school. I really shouldn't be late." "No problem, Izuku. Don't want Mr. Agresti seeing you like that after all," she said. I was about to respond sarcastically before I ran into someone knocking their book out of their hands. Sending papers flying, I hastily grabbed them out of the air and twisted around, presenting them to the person I bumped into, not seeing their face yet. "These are yours, right?" I said, and she looked up before I could apologize. I recognized the face and just locked up. It was Marinette. "Thanks for picking those up for me," she said, looking me up and down. "Well, I got to go to school. Have a good day." After that, she walked away, and I rushed myself to the school building. I rushed to my room and immediately began to look over some of my notes that I had on the digital board. It was notes on the reactor I had made for Yggdrasil. The reactor is pretty inefficient for the design I went for, but it does produce a lot of energy, and it is clean. I copied down some relevant numbers onto some notes before closing the file and working on the next iteration of the reactor. It was around that time that my students began showing up. I quickly closed the program before pulling up my lesson presentation and going to set up some stuff in each of the group tables. The rest of the day at school was pretty simple. I ran the class through the lesson, had one student cause an explosion. Then after school, I had the papers put away for me to grade later. I began to leave to get a few hours of rest before beginning to grade the papers. That was when I felt the emotion. I immediately rushed home and put my bag down. "This is the first time something has felled off since we got here," I said. "We should head out Nuru Wings Rise." Time skipped to after the fight with Gargoyle. I made it back home safe and sound from watching these two new heroes. Nuru Wings Fall, I said, transforming back. "It seems that the miraculous exist in the world as well, and whoever has this world's counterpart to yours isn't using it for good. The hat is for sure. We will need to be extra careful if we are to aid these new heroes." Nuru said, "When we get the chance, we will see what we can do for them," I said, sitting down with a fresh-made sandwich. "For now, I need to eat and grade these papers." Melissa's POV. It had been approximately 1 week since I let Japan's #1 CEO and genius just disappear to who knows where. Marinette is mad at me. Like I could stop Izuku from wanting to help someone sort of in front of him. And trying to recreate the phenomena is proving useless, since as it turns out, most of the calculations for his experiment Izuku left on his locked computer. Currently, I was sitting at his desk for comfort, while I tried to work my way through the needed calculations and going through the file he gave me that day. "Ugh," I groaned. "Izuku, why did you have to design an experiment with so many variables?" "Yeah, of course something like this would require a lot of variables anyway." Scara said, "Yeah, I know you all want to get him back, but we do need to work on other things as well." Marinette said as she wandered into the office. "For example, Melissa, you were supposed to find a durable material for me to work with for that new suit for Ryukyu." Right, I think I have one somewhere," I said, looking around my notes. "Oh, I got that here," Torai said, walking in with some tea for everyone. "Remember you asked me to get some of the fabric from the lab to pass off to Marinette?" "Oh yeah," I said. "That should be the fabric you need. If you need any more specifications, feel free to ask." "I will," Marinette said, grabbing the roll and walking out of the room. "Well, she still seems upset about everything," Torai said, pouring the tea into cups for everyone. "Well, what do you expect? One of her closest friends is missing or worse." Scara said, "He is definitely alive," I said, slamming my hands onto the desk. "I'm sure he'll be back as soon as he is done doing what he went there to do. Not that we know where exactly he went. Not anywhere on this world, I should think." Scara commented, "If he were here, he'd be able to contact us at least. Maybe we're looking at this the wrong way." I suddenly said, "What do you mean?" Scara asked, and Tori looked at me. "Well, from what he told me before he was pulled into that thing." I stood up and walked toward them. He felt a strong emotion coming from it. That's why he went into it. "Well, if we assume that the multiverse is real," I pondered aloud, "perhaps the best way to bring him back is to figure out where he went." So we would need to find a way to peer into alternate realities?" Torai asked. You know what, that sounds awfully familiar, Skara said, standing up and bringing her tablet and motioning for Tori to follow her. She ended up leaning against the desk like me as a screen lowered in front of us. Skara typed on her tablet, accessing some old files. These files were some of the earliest Izuku logged on our systems. On the screen was what looked like blueprints for a machine with a screen that might be the key to finding Izuku. So this blueprint for Yggdrasil is a machine that can pierce the veil to see other worlds. I said, when did Izuku come up with this? Shortly before he met you in Marinette. Tori said, Izuku was very concerned with trying to bring his parents back, Skara said. At some point, he settled on other universes being the key. Then he met you too, and he filed this away for maybe a future project. Okay, let's see here, I said, approaching the blueprint. It says something like this will require a large quantity of energy to be functional, far more than the sun experiment needed. Do we have a way to supply that power? It shouldn't be an issue. The building currently runs on a clean self-sustaining reactor. Tori said, it should supply more than enough energy, assuming his calculations on these blueprints are correct. Why did Aizu want to make the sun reactor if we already had a clean self-sustaining reactor? I asked. Oh, well, it does run clean. The element it burn is far from sustainable. Skara explained. So Izuku wanted to try and recreate a natural, somewhat self-sustaining reaction. You've seen how well that's been working. So, boss, will this be the new big project of the science division? I looked over the blueprints again. Yeah, we'll get started on this. Right away, move all of what's currently in the sub-basement into storage to focus on this project. I said firmly. Tori and Skara left to go and get started. I placed my hand on the screen. Don't worry, Aizu will bring you home. Oboro's POV. Around the same time, I was sat at a table in a police station interrogation room, leaning back, looking around the room. My eyes settled on the one-way mirror, and I couldn't help taking in my appearance. I don't really look older, despite it being over 13 years. Was this a part of what Monarch did, or what they did to me to make him? I closed my eyes. For a second, focusing inward, I found myself back in the place I first met Monarch, the place I was trapped in for 13 years. I looked around, and it was how I remember it, pristine white with a screen almost floating in the air. The one difference was he was here now. I looked at the dark, misty being that was what became of me after that day, and he looked back at me with his golden slanted eyes. We need to return to Tamura, Shigaraki, Kurogyari said bluntly. You and them aren't in control here anymore. I told him Monarch gave us back our life. Besides, he treated you like utter trash. We need to return to Tamura, Shigaraki. He said again, we must be there for Tamura, Shigaraki. We are free. I shouted. Look, I get that you're quite literally made for that one purpose, but this is a chance not just for me, but for you to actually live. You could develop into a true personality if you want to. I need to return to Tamura, he said, looking down. I need to, I can't. I need Tamura. He has to give me orders. I looked around at this white place around me. This place is a representation for your life, I wondered aloud. The reason it's like this is cause you have only ever followed what someone else wanted. I wonder, I thought for a second, and suddenly the white void around us changed. Beneath our feet became a hardwood floor. A desk with a chair and lamp appeared between us, and shelves grew in a circle surrounding everything. Here, Kurogyari. All I had while you were in control was that screen to occupy my time. I give you myself. Feel free to browse my memories from before my accident. My memories of everything I ever read or watched should also be in here somewhere. I hope you can come to grow from reading some of this. I walked over to him and gave him a hug. I came back to the interrogation room, feeling a little sad after my visit with myself. Suddenly the door opened and Shota Hizashi came in with a detective, I presume. The detective sat down in the chair opposite me, while Aizawa stood behind him to the right and Hizashi to the left. Hello, my name is Detective Naomasa Tsukauchi. He offered his hand to shake. Oboro Shirakomo. I shook his hand. So how are we going to do this? Well, we'll ask you the questions, villain. Hizashi said. Aizawa stepped over to calm him down. Perhaps we should start simply? Tsukauchi asked him, and Shota nodded. Okay, Oboro, what is your birthday? May 5th, I said. The detective nodded. Truth, he said. My quirk allows me to tell if someone is speaking the truth to me, so long as I've touched them. He explained, now more complicated. What was your accident that resulted in your presumed death? I was rescuing civilians after the battle against the villain Garvey. I said. True, he said. Are you satisfied, both of you? Yes, Shota said. No, Hizashi said. Tell us something only Kyumo and we would know. Okay then, I said, then thought for a moment. When we were in our senior year, you asked out that one girl from general studies to the school festival. She turned you down, saying you were allowed for her. I told you that in confidence. He shouted in anger before realization dawned on him. Oh my God, it really is you. Okay, now that that's sorted. Mind if I ask some important questions? Tsukachi asked them, and Hizashi nodded. Where did the villain that disappeared go? I don't know for sure, but probably back to their base, I said. I think it was in a bar of some sort. Okay, that was true, but where are they? Tsukachi affirmed. Ik for sure, I said, shrugging. Any of the time I was there was the other me, and all I ever saw of it, or its location, was the interior. True. Tsukachi relented. Is there anything you can tell us about them? No. You could try asking Kurojairi, but I'm not sure it's possible for him to come out anymore. I said, and if I did, he'd probably just say what he tells me or something like that. True, okay then. He said, from this case's perspective, I can't really get anything from you. So am I free to go? I asked. Not quite, Shota said. Nizu wants us to bring you back to UA for our own sort of investigation. And we need to come up with a plan on what to tell your mother. Oh, right, I hadn't even thought of that yet. I said, I'm supposed to be dead. Oh, why do I get the feeling this is going to be a lot of paperwork? It probably will, but Hizashi, Nizu, and I will help you with it when we get to that part. Shota said, coming to my side of the table and placing a hand on my shoulder. Thank you, Shota, I said. Izuku's POV. Izuku Midoriya testing log. Log date LBM 368. We've discovered a potential threat to the dimension in which I currently reside. I spoke into the recorder. I will continue to monitor from afar for now, as it seems the people fighting this menace are hunting for someone with the butterfly miraculous. On to today's Yggdrasil test. Today's coordinates are 40, 45, 76, 12, 50. Assuming this world falls parallel with the one discovered during the last test, any perceivable difference could be minor. Firing up Yggdrasil now. I pressed enter into the input terminal, and a whirring noise was heard from the cooling fans. The screen flicked on with blinding white light. When it settled down, all I could make out was what appeared to be a bar of some kind. There was a familiar misty figure behind the bar washing a glass, as well as a man in black loungewear with pale blue hair enjoying a drink. The sound of a door opening was heard, and a girl with blonde hair, done up in a bun, skipped into the room, followed by 3 men. We're back, she shouted as she jumped into a bar stool, and the misty man gave her a glass with a thick red liquid. How did your outing go, Dabi? The blue-haired man asked in a raspy voice. I'd say it went well. Deku died and came back, just as teacher said he would. One of the 3 men, a tall guy with black hair and a lot of burned flesh stapled to him, responded. What about the other quirks Master gave him? Blue asked. I don't know for sure beyond the area turning pitch black. Dabi said. Why don't you film in, kid? Oh, I saw some of the fight. No, I didn't. The man in a full costume of some sort said. I beat the deserters easily with the telekinetic quirk Master granted me. The short kid in a hooded sweater said, stepping forward and lowering the hood to reveal a younger version of myself. With one eerie difference, his eyes were fogged up. This me was blind. Good, well done, Deku. The blue head said. You're learning so fast, heck, you don't even need that old cane anymore. He pointed to an old guidance can propped up against the wall. I look forward to seeing how well you do on the raid in a few days. Yeah, I'm sure he'll make for a great raid on that. Camp. The man, Dabi said. Heck, he'd probably be able to complete the objective by himself with all the quirks he can handle. Ha. Okay, that's enough, I said, shutting down Yggdrasil. I can't believe it never occurred to me that some of the other me's could be villains, or perhaps manipulated by villains in this universe's case. Are you okay, Master? Nuru asked me. Yeah, I'll be fine, I said. It just makes me wonder how close was I to falling down some darker path than what I'm on now. I pondered. In any case, we best get ready for work. After all, we have a big lesson for today. With that, we want to sleep, albeit uneasily in my case. Around the same time, Melissa's POV. Okay, we finally have the first prototype set up, I said as I finished setting down a box of tapes for recording our progress. The Yggdrasil device was set up in the center of the lab. It resembled an old movie projector hooked up to a supercomputer. The longest step was coding in all of Izuku's notes on how to pierce the barrier between dimensions. Okay, let's get started. Well, according to Izuku's notes, we'll need to input something he calls a 5D coordinate. Torai said, reading off of a note page. Whatever the heck that is. Well, the first three dimensions are length, width, and depth. Skara said, quantum physics believes the fourth dimension to be time. So presumably Midoriya believes the fifth dimension to be what separates one universe from another. Before we do anything like that, perhaps SE should SE if we can't test the device with something easier. I proposed. Like what it's deigned to pierce the veil between world, how can we test it simpler? Well, let's see, I said, powering on the device. The screen flashed on and displayed a page containing a bracket system of two. One was filled with digits with the fourth one starting at 0 before increasing to 1, and the other bracket was empty. Look here, you guys, it automatically has something input. Perhaps this is our dimension's coordinate? They both walked over and looked at the screen. Yeah, you're right. Torai said, but why is 1 constantly changing? Skara asked. It's in the fourth position. Maybe it represents time? I said, we all took in the coordinates 40, 45, 76, 1, 8. If fourth position refers to time, it's counting up in hours from when the device went live, it looks like. That doesn't make too much sense now, does it? Torai said, we obviously existed before the device, so therefore time existed before the device. I think you overthinking it, Tori. Skara said, the device is clearly just using when it was activated as the time point. It does make me wonder, I said. We can alter all of the coordinates, so let's see if this works. In the blank brackets, I began to type. I copied all of the digits except to the fourth slot, deciding to put something else in. 40, 45, 76, 8. I wonder if it can view through time. What number should I put into the time space? Well, it's best we stick to the past. So pick a time we were all there for. Torai suggested. Skara nodded. How many hours ago was the accident now? I asked. It would be about 198 hours. Skara said, looking at her watch and running through the math in her head. Okay, here goes nothing. I said, typing into the blank space. I left 198, making the coordinates 40, 45, 76, 198, 8. Then I pressed enter to confirm the command. There was a small whirl as the cooling system immediately came to life and a bright white light erupted for the projector before color came in, and we saw an eerily realistic, almost close-up security footage of the accident just over a week ago. Whoa. I said we can view into the past with this, but that's not important. We know that to some level the device does indeed work now. Yeah, Tori said. Next would be a test to see what happens when we change the world number. Skara said. Right. We all agreed on that. What number should we put in, though? I asked. Infinite possibilities makes it hard to narrow down. Torai said. Okay, then, best way to begin to narrow it down will be to start at 1 and work our way up, I suppose. I said, beginning to input new coordinates into the device 40, 45, 76, 11. Worst case scenario, this takes a while, right? I pressed enter, and the screen flashed white once more before honing in on a familiar head of green hair. It was a kid that looked eerily like Izuku dressed in a Japanese middle school outfit. Izuku, you need to leave, or you'll be late. A woman's voice called up to him. Coming. He shouted, and left his room, revealing an apartment. Shortly thereafter, I powered down the machine. Okay, turns out this could be a lot harder than just locating Izuku, I said, banging my fist on a table. Infinite possibilities mean infinite versions of him to look through. Hey, it'll be okay, Melissa, Tori said, walking over. Yeah, Skara said, rubbing my back. We'll find him, I'm sure. And knowing Izuku, I'm sure he's trying to find his way back, Oswell. Yeah, I said, wiping away some tears from my eye. He definitely will be. We just need to keep searching and hopefully we'll land on him. Right? Both of them said. Okay, we're going to need to arrange shifts to keep this going, I said. The more inputs we can scan through, the faster we can locate him. I'll take first shift, Tori said. You two go get some rest. We'll tag out what? Every 8 hours? Sound good here, Skara said. Yeah, that works. I said. Izuku's POV. I stood in front of my class with a tablet in hand, ready to begin the class. I looked over my attendance list, and called out name, confirming a full class. Okay, everyone tell me, what do you know of the multiverse? Sir? Marinette raised her hand. What does this have to do with the lesson we had yesterday? Simple, we finished yesterday's lesson yesterday, Marinette. I said, this is today's lesson. Mr. Midoriya? Max raised his hand. The multiverse is a theory proposed in quantum physics that suggests there may be more than one universe. Specifically, it proposes an infinite number of other universes. Correct, Max. I said, do you know some of the proposed evidence for the existence of the multiverse? Well, I've never seen it myself. He said, but I've heard that when looking at particles on a subatomic level, sometimes they just pop in and out of reality, which contradicts the conservation of mass law, since matter cannot be created or destroyed. Correct. That is indeed the best evidence published to date for the existence of at least one other universe. I said as I began to pull down a screen for the projector. What if I told you I have personally found some more substantial evidence of the multiverse existing? I'd say that would be astounding, sir. Max said. Nerds, Chloe Bourgeois said. I heard that, Chloe. I said, meet me after school. Though I do think I have some evidence here that everyone will enjoy. You all saw on the news last night that Paris has some new heroes, yes? Of course, Max said. I was the one who filmed them, actually. Alia said. Yeah, what about it? A lot of the other students said. What if I told you all that more heroes could be in the future for Paris? I said, what makes you so certain? Max asked. Really? Alia asked, excited. I was running a few experiments at home the other night, which I believe resulted in me seeing through to a parallel universe. I said, sounds far-fetched. Chloe said, well, let me play this recording and you could decide for yourselves. I loaded the video up and pressed play. It was a video of the earliest test I preformed on Yggdrasil. It was the early days before I even found universes resembling my own. True to my word, it was a clip of what should be a parallel universe to this one. It showed 5 heroes in total, standing facing some great threat. 2 of these heroes bore a striking resemblance to the 2 that premiered last night, Ladybug and Chat Noir. The remaining 3 were also animal-themed heroes. There was a man in a turtle-themed suit that carried a shield on his back, a girl with red hair in a fox-themed suit, and lastly a blonde girl in a bee-themed suit. So what do you all think? I asked, does this video prove the existence of the multiverse for you? Well, it's certainly interesting. Alia said, we can't really believe it unless we preform an experiment and get the same result, right? Max said, seems interesting, sir. Adrian said, well, I suppose Max is right. I said, palcing my hand onto my chin. Okay, I'll see if I can bring in the things we need to recreate the experiment, but I'll let you guys run it. Until then, I will provide more conventional lessons for this class. With that said, you all may go early and enjoy some free time. Izuku's POV. It had been a few days since I'd shown my class that video of a parallel dimension. True to my world, I continued more boring lessons for a bit while behind the scenes. I was working on transporting Yggdrasil to the classroom. I was just finishing packing what I needed to take with me, as the classroom already has a projector, when there was a knock on the basement door. Coming, I walked over to the door and opened it up. Oh, Mr. Damocles, what do I owe the pleasure of seeing you at this time of night? Well, Izuku, I know part of our agreement with you was to let you stay in the basement, and you would take less pay. He said, but well, to be frank, some of the other teachers are concerned about some of the noises they hear from down here when they have to work late. So, might I ask what exactly are these experiments you mentioned when we first met? Well, it is a little hard to explain. I said, it's mostly just quantum physics experiments and some minor energy and engineering projects I'm working on. Oh, and I fixed up the old boiler down here. I imagine that was where most of the noise came from. Oh, so that's why I haven't got as many complaints about the water being too cold recently. He said, exactly. Oh, but I'm going to warn you in advance, you might want to get the pipes redone this summer. Some of them look like they won't last too much longer. I told him, well, if that's everything, I'll try to keep my experiments down from now on. Well, thank you, and see that you do. With that, Mr. Damocles left back up the stairs. Phew, that was close. I said after closing the door. Well, now that that's taken care of, I should get some sleep before I have to go to my other job. I laid down in my bed and set an alarm on my phone for a few hours. I passed out almost immediately after that, Nuru cuddling up next to me. Time skip. I was currently in my desk for the Agresti fashion brand studio, working on a new design for Mr. Agresti to review tomorrow. Speaking of the man, he walked out of his office just now. He walked by without so much as a nod. Natalie coming over with his notes on yesterday's design. Great work, as usual, Izuku, though he is still rather curious where you get some of these odder designs. Natalie said, pulling out one of my designs for a brilliant royal blue suit, accompanied by a purple trench coat for colder weather. Oh, that one wasn't supposed to be submitted, actually, but oh well, if he likes it, he likes it. I said, evidently not in my usual cheerful tone. Something wrong? She asked me. No, I said, just missing some of my friends and my family. Right, you're from Japan. She said, must be tough not being able to contact them, as easily being this far away. I'm sure it costs a lot just to call them. You could say that, I smiled. Anyway, don't you need to meet Mr. Agresti at the car? Oh my, you're right, sorry, I have to go. Have a good night, Izuku. She said, running off to catch up with Mr. Agresti. With Natalie gone, I returned to my work, drawing out some new designs. Nuru came out for a bit and comforted me as I worked, making a few jokes and sharing in my lunch/breakfast meal. Before too long, I found myself asleep at my desk again. Time skip. Sometime in the morning, I woke up from my head falling off my hand and hitting my desktop hard. Ow, I said as I sat back up and checked the time. Oh, crud, I gotta get today's submissions in and head off to the school. I hastily grabbed sketches and began to put them into a folder for Natalie to give to Mr. Agresti. I stood up from my desk and walked over to the office room and met Natalie. Here you go, Natalie. I need to head out a little bit early to set up for today's lesson at school. I explained. Well, have a good day, Izuku, she said as I was rushing out of the office and through the building now. I ran to the school, which thankfully wasn't far away. I dodged traffic and made my way into the building and down to the basement to grab my box of things I need. I ran back up the stairs and up to my science room to see my class all outside waiting for me. Hey guys, I said, awkwardly grabbing the keys to the door and unlocking it. So it's going to take me a second to get everything set up. While I'm doing that, I want you all to pair up with your table buddy and talk about what I'm going to write up on the board, okay? Right, sir. They all agreed, except for Chloe. I successfully unlocked the door and walked in, setting the box down on my desk. I went to the digital board and wrote my current instructions. Pair up with your table partner and come up with a number between 1 and 100. With my instructions posted, I began to work on setting up Yggdrasil in the classroom. I was setting up what looked like an admittedly pretty janky PC on my desk with some glowing reactor attached to it, plugging it into the projector system. All the while I was doing that, my students debated amongst themselves what numbers to pick and what exactly the number could be for. Lastly, I ran a quick test run, typing in the digits for the universe. I already showed them to test that the machine was running fine. Those coordinates being 34, 78, 13, 35, won the projector word to life and projected onto the screen and displayed the same scene I showed the other day. Okay, class, looks like we are operational, I said from my desk. Now, one at a time, one stand up and tell us the number your group settled on. Max stood up first. Sir, perhaps if you tell us what the number has to do with this, we can decide better. He asked. Fair enough. I said, you know how here on Earth, to pinpoint an exact spot, we can use longitude and latitude? I asked and they nodded. Well, with this machine, I need a total of 5 numbers, 4 of which I'm taking care of myself. Those represent length, width, height, and time, being the 4 dimensions that exist to our knowledge. The number your groups will provide will be the 5th coordinate needed to lock onto a different dimension. If I were to give a name to this last dimensional coordinate, I suppose it would be variable. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for explaining it, sir. Max said and sat back down. Why don't you all take another minute to decide on a number? I said, Izuku POV. Okay, class, is everyone ready? I asked. They all nodded. Alrighty, then group, holler out your number. Marinette and Alia stood up and spoke together. 94. All right, I said as I typed in 34, 78, 13, 94, 1. Okay, everyone, don't forget my assignment while watching the other universe. Right? Everyone said except Chloe. I pressed enter and the projector flared to life, and on the screen we saw what looked like a desolate Paris. It was absolutely flooded with water, only rooftops above the new sea level. The moon was fragmenting apart, and our view panned down onto a glass rooftop. On it sat a teenager wearing a white cat costume. Little kitty on a roof, all alone, he sang to himself. without his lady. I cut the feed. Okay, class, it seems that we happened to stumble on a not-so-happy alternate universe here. I said, next group if you don't mind. Adrian and Nino stood up. We agreed on the number 50, sir. Nino said for the group. I typed in 34, 78, 13, 51. Okay, here we go. I pressed enter. The screen whirred back to life, and on the screen was an older man wearing a purple suit themed after a butterfly. They were in what looked like some kind of catacomb under the city, with a large computer monitoring the rest of the city and a brown-haired woman that looked like Alia checking each of the feeds. Better fly, sir. They are zeroing in on us. We need to do it now or never. She said. I know. The man said, opening the bubble on his cane for a white butterfly to flutter out and into his palm. He channeled some kind of energy into it and let it fly free. The butterfly merged with the woman's glasses. She transformed into a character with a galaxy motif to their overall clothes. Now open a gateway if you would ubiquity. She rose into the air slightly, and her cape became a gateway. He stepped through, and Yggdrasil glitched. I'll need to keep that one in mind. I thought to myself, okay, next group if you would. I said aloud. Max stood up. Sir, I'm afraid we are running out of time for this class period. He said. I looked at the clock, which showed a minute or two left in the period. So it would seem, I responded. We'll pick this up tomorrow. Have a good rest of your day, kids. I hear that a back-to-school fair is happening today at the Tilleries. I suppose you all will be going? The class filed out. I was packing up Yggdrasil when I felt a disturbance from the emotions nearby. I looked up. It's been a while since I've used that ability, I said to myself, rushing to the door and locking it hastily. That's a police officer holding the line at the bank while it's being robbed, I think. I rushed into the bathroom. Nuru wings rise. I said after making sure no one else was in here. After I finished transforming, leapt out the window and onto the roof, beginning to jump roof to roof, following the feeling that alerted me. I got to a rooftop across from the bank and surveyed the scene. The police had formed a line to try and catch the thieves on their way out of the bank, when suddenly the door blew open with safe door flying down the stairs. Out walked what looked like a purple skin mime, and a magician with vibrant red hair transitioning to black. Looking at those two, I felt something almost familiar about them, but something was a little off. Like they had some of my tenchi, but different off, no corrupted. I reached out seeing if I could pull them free, but whatever the reason I couldn't. I couldn't even sense the object they possessed. This is weird, I said. But I suppose that means the holder of this world probably can't interfere in with my tenchi then. Attention! A chubby cop spoke up near the front of the blockade. We have you surrounded, so kindly place the money down and put your hands up. That the perfect person, I said to myself, popping my cane's bubble and allowing the butterfly to land on my palm. I infused it with energy, and it began to glow royal blue with light blue accents. Fly away, my little tenchi. The butterfly flew away and landed on the officer's bullhorn. What is that thing? The officer asked before the butterfly dissolved into the bullhorn and the connection was made. Roger, cop. I am Monarch, and I wish to assist you in detaining these dangerous fugitives. I said, if you accept, I will grant you abilities to put you on par with the new superheroes who have appeared in the news. He faltered for a moment before showing a face of determination. I accept. Wonderful. Allow me to grant you this blessing, and I'll be down in just a moment. I said. He was covered in blue smoke, and he transformed into a taller, more muscular shape. He gained Aerobot-like exosuit, and one arm transformed into a blaster not unlike that of Mega Man's. With his transformation done, I leapt down and stood next to him. Hello, Roger Cop. I can't remove their abilities nor capture their Akuma in the events of us beating them, so we will unfortunately have to let them run amok till the other two show up. HM, I don't like the sound of that, he said as he looked at me. But if it can't be helped, we'll have to do it your way. Everyone clear the way while we engage. He shouted that last bit to the remaining cops. So this was the end of this series. Stay tuned for next part of this series. And if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.